Hello guys, welcome to Ben 10 What Ifs. So in this video, we will see what if Ben 10 awakened his Anodite powers. Ben 10 x Gwen x Kevin. If you enjoy these kinds of stories, don't forget to show us some love by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support means the world to us. Now, let's start the story. Chapter 1, Emergence. Concrete shattered. Dust choked the air in downtown Bellwood. A screeching roar echoed off the glass skyscrapers, vibrating in Ben Tennyson's chest. He skidded backward, the soles of his sneakers carving black lines into the pavement. Across the street, the Voltic leech, a nasty, six-legged parasite the size of a minivan, crackled with stolen electricity. Blue arcs of lightning snapped between its mandibles. It had already drained 2 power substations and a hybrid bus. Now it wanted the biggest battery in range. The Omnitrix. Ben. Stop posing and hit it. Kevin Levin yelled. He stood 10 feet away, his body coated in the dark, metallic sheen of the asphalt he'd absorbed. He ripped a parking meter out of the ground like it was a toothpick and hurled it. The metal pole bounced harmlessly off the leech's static field. I'm not posing, I'm dialing. Ben snapped. He slapped the faceplate. Come on, feedback. Or shock squatch. Give me something that eats volts. The dial didn't pop up. Instead, the green hourglass flickered. It turned a sickly yellow, then hissed. A spark jumped from the bezel and stung Ben's wrist. Ow. Stupid watch. Ben shook his wrist. Don't quit on me now. Gwen landed beside him, her hands glowing with pink mana. She threw up a hexagonal barrier just as the leech fired a bolt of concentrated lightning. The shield shuddered, cracking down the center. Ben, I can't hold this forever, Gwen gritted out, sweat beading on her forehead. Whatever you're doing, do it faster. It's stuck. Ben hammered the core with his palm. It thinks it's in scan mode or something. It won't transform. The leech screeched again. It reared back on its hind legs, its thorax glowing blinding white. It wasn't just firing a bolt this time, it was unloading everything it had absorbed. Gwen's shield shattered. The force threw her sideways into a parked sedan. Gwen! Kevin shouted, sprinting toward her. The leech turned its head. Dead center on Ben. Time seemed to slow down. Ben stared down the gullet of the monster. The air tasted like ozone and burnt rubber. He didn't have cover. He didn't have an alien. He raised his hands instinctively, a useless human gesture to ward off a freight train. Move. Push. Stop. He didn't think the words. He felt them. A weird heat started in his gut, bypassed his lungs, and surged straight into his arms. It wasn't the cold, mechanical hum of the Omnitrix. It felt like sticking his finger in a socket, but the electricity was inside his blood. The leech fired. Ben screamed and thrust his palms forward. The street didn't explode. The lightning didn't hit him. A ragged, violent sphere of magenta energy erupted from Ben's hands. It wasn't clean or geometric like Gwen's constructs. It was wild, jagged, looking more like fire than light. The blast met the lightning bolt mid-air, swallowed it, and kept going. The impact hit the leech with the force of a wrecking ball. The creature flew backward, crashing through the brick facade of a coffee shop. Debris rained down, burying the monster. Silence fell over the street, broken only by the settling dust and the car alarms blaring in the distance. Ben stood there, panting. His hands smoked. Faint wisps of pink energy curled off his fingertips like steam. Kevin pulled himself out of the dented side of the sedan, helping Gwen up. They both stared at Ben. Gwen's eyes were wide, her mouth slightly open. Ben looked at his hands. He looked at the Omnitrix. The watch was dark. Dead silent. Ben said, his voice cracking. Did I just do that? Kevin walked over, kicking a piece of brick out of his way. He dropped his armor, skin returning to normal. Okay, Tennyson. Since when do you sparkle? The drive to Plumber HQ was quiet. Too quiet. Kevin drove his muscle car with a white-knuckle grip on the steering wheel, weaving through traffic with precision. Gwen sat in the passenger seat, turning completely around to look at Ben in the back. Ben stared out the window. He kept clenching and unclenching his fist. Every time he squeezed tight, he felt that heat again, waiting under his skin. It freaked him out. It felt like the watch, Ben said, breaking the silence. But, Messier. The Omnitrix is a biological dampener and a genetic splicer, Gwen said. She held a scanner over Ben's chest. The device beeped erratic, high-pitched tones. It doesn't shoot energy beams, Ben. That came from you. Maybe the watch leaked. Ben suggested. Feedback holds energy. Maybe it just vented. The core was inactive, Gwen countered. She tapped the screen of her scanner. Ben, your bio readings are off the charts. Your mana levels spiked higher than mine do when I'm pushing full power. Kevin glanced in the rearview mirror. So what? He's magic now. I thought you were the special one, Gwen. I am, Gwen frowned, though she didn't look angry. She looked worried. Grandma Verdona said I had that spark. She never said anything about Ben. They pulled into the hidden garage of the plumber base beneath the Bell shop. The tires squealed on the concrete as Kevin parked. They didn't wait for the lift, they took the stairs two at a time, bursting into the main command center. Grandpa Max stood at the central console, reviewing damage reports from downtown. He looked up, his face serious. The leech is in containment, Max said. Good work. But the cleanup crew says there's distinct anodite residue all over the blast site. Gwen, you need to be more careful with, it wasn't me, Grandpa, Gwen cut in. She pointed a thumb at Ben. Max froze. He looked at Ben, really looked at him. Ben. My watch broke, Ben said, holding up his wrist. And then my hands did, the thing. Max sighed, a long, heavy exhale. He rubbed his temples. I was afraid of this. Verdona always said the genetics were tricky. Skips a generation, usually manifests in the females, but usually doesn't mean always, . So I am an anodite? Ben asked. Like, I'm an energy being inside a human suit. You're a hybrid, Max corrected. Like Gwen. You have the spark. It's just been dormant. The Omnitrix likely suppressed it because it dominates your genetic signal. If the watch malfunctioned or rebooted during a high-stress moment. The suppression failed, Kevin finished. He leaned against the console, crossing his arms. Great. 2 of them. Can he make the glowy stairs too? Ben looked at his hands again. Does this mean I don't need the watch? It means you have a loaded weapon you don't know how to use, Gwen said sharply. Anodite power isn't just pointing and shooting, Ben. It's life energy. Mana. If you draw too much, you lose your humanity. If you don't draw enough, it fizzles. I can handle it, Ben said. He felt a surge of defensiveness. He'd saved the universe a dozen times. How hard could pink sparkles be? Teach me. Gwen exchanged a look with Max. Max nodded. Take him to the quarry, Max said. And Ben? Don't blow up the car. The abandoned quarry was a jagged scar in the earth outside Bellwood limits. Piles of gravel and massive boulders littered the floor. It was their usual training ground, mostly because there was nothing valuable to break. Ben stood facing a rusted-out bulldozer. He held his hands up, fingers splayed. Okay, Gwen said. She walked around him, correcting his stance. Stop trying to punch the air. You're too tense. Mana flows. You have to pull it from the environment and channel it through you. I did it before by just wanting the bug to stop, Ben said. He squeezed his eyes shut. He grunted, straining his muscles. Nothing happened. You're trying to force it, Gwen sighed. Relax. Feel the life in the ground. The heat in the air. I feel silly, Ben muttered. Just focus. Ben snapped his eyes open. He was annoyed. He was Ben Tennyson. He didn't do Zen. He did action. He thrust his right hand out, visualizing a cannon shot. A bolt of magenta light sizzled out of his palm. But instead of going straight, it hooked wildly to the left, corkscrewing through the air. It slammed into the ground 3 feet from where Kevin sat on the hood of his car. Dirt and rocks sprayed over Kevin's jeans. Hey! Kevin jumped off the hood, brushing gravel off his shirt. Watch the paint, Tennyson. I just waxed this thing. My bad. Ben yelled. It curved. It curved because you have no control, Gwen said, walking back into his line of sight. She held up her hand. A perfect, rotating disk of pink energy formed instantly. See this? I'm not straining. I'm guiding it. Ben dropped his hands. This is stupid. The Omnitrix is way faster. Bang, I'm 4 arms, I smash stuff. Why do I need to learn this if I have the watch? Because the watch glitched, Kevin said, walking over. He looked at the Omnitrix on Ben's wrist. And until I can run a full diagnostic on the core, you're grounded from aliens. Unless you want to turn into a gray matter with the brain of a wild mutt. Ben kicked a rock. It skittered across the quarry floor. Fine. Again. He tried for an hour. The results were pathetic. He managed to make a small shield that flickered out after 3 seconds. He made a whip that slapped him in the own leg. He tried to fly and just jumped really high before falling on his face. You're fighting it, Gwen said, handing him a water bottle. You treat the power like it's an alien you have to tame. It's you, Ben. It's part of you. It doesn't feel like me, Ben admitted, wiping sweat off his chin. It feels like noise. Loud noise in my head. Kevin's plumber badge chirped, saving Ben from more psychoanalysis. Kevin checked the readout. We got a hit, Kevin said. Police scanner. Reports of glowing ghosts messing with the transformer relays at the east side power grid. Same signature as the leech. Let's go, Ben said, reaching for the Omnitrix dial out of habit. He stopped himself. He looked at his hands. I guess I'm driving shotgun. The east side power grid was a maze of humming towers and thick cables. Night had fallen, and the industrial lights cast long, creepy shadows against the chain-link fences. They hopped the fence. Kevin touched the steel post, his skin shifting into a cold, hard iron alloy. Gwen's eyes glowed faintly pink as she scanned the area. I sense it, she whispered. Hunger. It's not a creature this time. It feels distinct. Over there, Ben pointed. Near the main capacitor bank, 3 figures shambled around. They wore utility worker uniforms, but their movements were jerky, puppet-like. Their eyes glowed with a sickly, pale blue light. Possessed? Kevin asked. Energy constructs piloting human bodies, Gwen corrected. Don't hurt the hosts. Great, so I can't hit them, Kevin grumbled. Hey! Ben shouted, stepping into the light. Shift's over. Step away from the high voltage. The 3 workers turned in unison. They opened their mouths, and a garbled, digital screech came out. They raised their hands, and beams of blue kinetic energy shot toward the team. Scatter. Ben dove behind a concrete barrier. A beam sliced the top off the concrete like a laser cutter. Gwen leaped into the air, creating a ramp of mana to slide down, firing stunning discs at the workers. The discs hit, but the blue energy inside the workers flared and shattered Gwen's constructs. "They're feeding on your mana," Gwen yelled. "Don't use direct attacks." Kevin charged the nearest worker. He tanked a blast to the chest, the iron skin absorbing the heat. He grabbed the worker's arms, pinning them. "Ben! Do something!" Ben popped up. He needed to knock them out without hurting the guys inside. He focused. Soft impact. Push them back. He thrust both hands. A wave of magenta force erupted. But again, Ben's emotions, his panic, his rush, tainted the flow. The wave didn't push, it exploded. The shock wave slammed into Kevin. And the worker. It blew them both backward 20 feet. Kevin crashed into a transformer box, denting the metal. The worker flew limp, the blue light leaving his eyes as he hit the gravel. "Kevin!" Ben sprinted over. Kevin groaned, shaking his head. The iron armor on his chest was cracked. He shifted back to human skin, wincing as he rubbed his ribs. "I said, watch the paint," Kevin wheezed. "I didn't mean to, I know," Kevin snapped. He stood up, stiffer than usual. "But you're dangerous, man. You're throwing grenades in a knife fight." Gwen landed beside them. The other two workers had collapsed when Ben's blast disrupted the local energy field. The blue energy wisps fled upward into the sky, disappearing. "Are you okay?" Gwen asked Kevin, her hand hovering over his shoulder. "I'm fine," Kevin brushed her off. He looked at Ben. There was fear in his eyes, buried deep, but it was there. "We need to figure this out. I can't be your punching bag while you learn to ride a bike." Ben felt a knot of shame in his stomach. He looked at the unconscious workers. He'd saved them, mostly. But he'd almost broken Kevin's ribs. "We need help," Ben said. "Someone who knows about this stuff. Someone who isn't family." "I might know a guy," Kevin said, pulling out his communicator. Saw his name in the plumber database. Specialized in exotic energy biology. Professor Hex. Hex. Gwen raised an eyebrow. "Like the wizard?" "Different guy. Spelled with a KS. Hex. Whatever. He's at the university." Professor Sebastian Hex wasn't what Ben expected. He was young, maybe early 30s, with slick back hair and a lab coat that cost more than Ben's house. His lab at Bellwood University was pristine, filled with humming servers and glass containment units holding swirling gases. "Anodite," Professor Hex breathed, adjusting his rimless glasses. He walked around Ben like he was a statue in a museum. "Fascinating. The spark of creation itself. Can you fix it?" Ben asked. He sat on an exam table, swinging his legs. "Or turn it off." "Turn it off." Hex laughed. It was a dry, clicking sound. "Mr. Tennyson, you don't turn off a tsunami. You learn to surf." Hex pulled up a holographic display. It showed a map of the sector. Red dots blinked in a spiral pattern. "I've been tracking these anomalies," Hex said. "The entity you fought, the leech, the possessed workers, they are symptoms. Scavengers." "Scavengers for what?" Gwen asked. She was leaning against a desk, arms crossed, analyzing Hex. She didn't trust him yet. For the collective, Hex tapped a key. A large, swirling void appeared on the screen. A sentient energy matrix. It travels the cosmos, devouring mana sources. It doesn't want electricity. It wants life force. Anodite energy is its favorite meal. Ben looked at the screen. "So I'm not just a battery. I'm a buffet." "Precisely," Hex smiled. He reached out and tapped Ben's wrist, right next to the Omnitrix. Your awakening likely rang a dinner bell across the quadrant. But, if you work with me, I can help you mask your signature. Dampen the output until you have control. Do it, Kevin said. Whatever keeps him from blowing us up. Hex handed Ben a small, silver bracelet. This is a mana dampener. Prototype. It will add resistance to your flow. Think of it as weight training. Ben snapped the bracelet on his other wrist. Immediately, the buzzing noise in his head quieted down. The heat under his skin cooled. Better? Hex asked. Yeah, Ben flexed his hand. Much. Good. Now, the collective is likely congregating where the atmospheric mana is densest. The old observatory on the ridge. The lens refocuses starlight, which is just another form of mana. The observatory, Ben hopped off the table. Let's go kick some cloud butt. I will monitor from here, Hex said, turning back to his consoles. My field equipment is delicate. But I will guide you via comms. The drive up to the observatory was tense. The road wound up the mountain, surrounded by dense pine trees. I don't like him, Gwen said. You don't like anyone who uses big words, Kevin joked, but his voice lacked its usual bite. He was too eager, Gwen argued. And he looked at Ben like a lab rat. He gave me the bracelet, Ben held up his wrist. And my head doesn't hurt anymore. So he's okay in my book. Just be careful, Gwen said. If that thing restricts your power, it might also restrict your defense. They reached the summit. The observatory dome loomed white against the starry sky. But something was wrong. The air shimmered. The stars above the dome looked bent, warped. It's here, Gwen said. Her eyes flared pink. I can feel the drain. It's massive. They got out of the car. Kevin touched the car immediately, coating himself in steel. Plan. I hit it, Ben said. You guys cover me. Ben, you can't just. Before Gwen could finish, the observatory doors blasted open. It wasn't a monster that came out. It was a cloud. A swirling, shifting mass of deep purple and black smoke, crackling with silent lightning. It had no face, but it had a presence. A weight. The Mana Collective. A voice boomed in their heads, not sound, but thought. Pray. Tendrils of smoke lashed out. Kevin jumped in front of Gwen, taking the hit. The smoke slammed him backward, skidding across the asphalt. Kevin. Gwen thrust her hands forward, firing rapid bolts of mana. The smoke absorbed them instantly, growing larger. It eats magic. Gwen yelled. Physical attacks only. Ben looked at the Omnitrix. He looked at the bracelet. Okay, Ben muttered. Hex said this dampens me. Maybe I can use that. He slapped the Omnitrix. Come on, work. The watch sparked, but the dial popped up. The dampener on his other wrist was stabilizing his biofield, confusing the watch less. Ben slammed the dial. Green light engulfed him. His body crystallized. He grew taller, sharper. Diamond head. Ben flexed his crystal fingers. Okay, you smoky jerk. Try to eat a diamond. He fired shard projectiles from his hands. They pierced the smoke cloud. The entity recoiled, hissing in their minds. Hard matter. Distasteful. The cloud shifted, condensing into a giant, shadowy fist. It swung at Ben. Ben braced himself. He caught the fist. His crystal feet cracked the pavement. He was strong enough to hold it. Kevin. Gwen. Flank it. Ben yelled. But the entity was smart. It wasn't just pushing, it was vibrating. Ben felt the frequency travel through his diamond arms. It was trying to shatter him. Ben, get out of there. Gwen screamed. I got it. Ben gritted his teeth. Then, he had an idea. A stupid, dangerous idea. He was Diamond Head. Diamond refracts light. Mana is light. Hex said surf the tsunami, Ben growled. He focused on the Anodite spark buried deep under his diamond armor. He fought against the silver bracelet. He pulled the energy up. Inside Diamond Head's chest, a pink light began to glow. It swirled through his translucent limbs, mixing with the pale green of the alien biology. Ben, what are you doing? Kevin yelled. Refracting. Ben released the energy into his own body. The magenta light hit the internal crystal facets of Diamond Head's anatomy. It split, multiplied, and intensified. Ben roared. He thrust his hands forward. Instead of a jagged blast, a laser-focused, prismatic beam of dazzling light erupted from Diamond Head's palms. It was a fusion of alien biology and Anodite raw power. The beam hit the collective dead center. The entity shrieked. The light tore through the shadow, burning it away. The cloud exploded outward, unable to consume the concentrated frequency. But the backlash was instant. The silver bracelet on Ben's wrist melted. The Omnitrix wailed a warning alarm. The pressure inside Ben was too much. Diamond Head's body began to crack. Not from the enemy, but from the inside. Crack. A massive explosion of light blinded everyone. When the spots cleared from Kevin's vision, silence had returned to the mountain. The collective was gone. The observatory dome was scorched. Ben lay in the center of a crater, back in human form. He was smoking. His clothes were torn. He wasn't moving. Ben. Gwen sprinted to him, dropping to her knees. She placed her hands on his chest, pouring healing mana into him. Kevin stood over them, scanning the perimeter. Is he? He's alive, Gwen said, her voice shaking. He drained himself completely. And he overloaded the watch. Ben groaned. His eyes fluttered open. He looked terrible, pale and shaky. Did I get it? He rasped. You got it, Kevin said, letting out a breath he didn't know he was holding. He reached down and hauled Ben up to a sitting position. You crazy idiot. You turned yourself into a laser pointer. Ben grinned weakly. Cool, right? No, Gwen said, smacking his arm lightly. Terrifying. Ben looked at his wrist. The silver bracelet was gone, melted into slag. The Omnitrix was black and unresponsive. I think I broke the dampener, Ben said. Good, Kevin said. He looked out at the dark horizon. Because that thing didn't die, Ben. It just ran away. It's gonna come back hungry. Ben nodded. He tried to stand, but his legs wobbled. Kevin caught him, slinging Ben's arm over his shoulder. Then we get ready, Ben said. He looked at his hand. A tiny, faint spark of pink light danced between his fingers. He closed his fist, extinguishing it. I guess I have some homework to do. High above on a ridge, unseen by the trio, Professor Hex lowered his binoculars. He tapped his earpiece. Subject has successfully integrated the catalyst, Hex whispered, a cold smile playing on his lips. Phase 1 is complete. The hybrid is viable. He turned and walked into the shadows of the forest. Chapter 2, Resonance, Focus, Ben. A magenta disc whizzed past Ben's ear. He yelped, diving behind a boulder. His hands glowed with chaotic light as he tried to shape a counterattack. The energy sputtered and flared erratically between his fingertips. I am focusing. Ben shouted back. You're not giving me time to think. Gwen stood 30 feet away, floating a foot off the ground. Her eyes blazed with pink light, her hair flowing in an unseen wind. She looked like a force of nature, precise, controlled, and terrifying. The collective won't give you time either, she called, hurling another disc. Defend yourself. Ben gritted his teeth. He slapped his hands together, focusing on a single word, shield. A ragged bubble of energy formed around him. Gwen's disc slammed into it. The shield held for a moment, wobbling like gelatin, before popping with a sound like a burst balloon. Better, Gwen said, lowering to the ground. But still way too unstable. It had been a week since the observatory. A week of daily training sessions at the quarry. A week of Kevin tinkering with the broken Omnitrix. A week of falling on his face, both literally and figuratively. You're pushing too hard, Ben complained, brushing dirt off his jeans. I'm not you, Gwen. I don't do the whole Zen lotus flower thing. And I'm not asking you to be me, Gwen countered, walking over. I'm asking you not to blow yourself up. Or us. Ben looked at his watch. The Omnitrix face was still dark. Kevin had managed to restore minimal power to the core, but not enough for transformations. Just enough to stabilize Ben's DNA signature. Maybe I should try combining it again, Ben suggested, tapping the Omnitrix. Diamond Head plus Anodite almost worked. You call that almost worked? Gwen raised an eyebrow. You made a crater and knocked yourself out for 6 hours. But I heard it, Ben said. The collective. Nothing else even touched it. Gravel crunched as Kevin's car pulled into the quarry. He'd been at Plumber HQ all morning, running diagnostics on the energy signatures from their encounters. The door slammed as he got out, carrying a toolbox and what looked like a small satellite dish. Yo, Magic Twins, Kevin called. I brought presents. Gwen shot him a look that could melt steel. Not twins, Kevin. Not even close. Whatever, Kevin shrugged, setting down the equipment. You're both glowy and annoying now. Same difference. He pulled out a small metal band that looked like a wristwatch without a face. What's that? Ben asked, walking over. Energy scanner, Kevin said. Modified from Plumber Tech. It'll read your mana output in real time, tell you when you're about to overload. He tossed it to Ben. Try not to melt this one. Ben caught it and slipped it on his wrist opposite the Omnitrix. The band immediately lit up with tiny LEDs ranging from green to red. Hey, check it out, Ben grinned, raising his hand. The scanner flashed yellow as energy gathered in his palm. I'm a human mood ring. Don't joke about this, Gwen said, crossing her arms. Hex called it right, you're broadcasting like a beacon. Every energy parasite in the sector probably knows you're here by now. Kevin's phone buzzed. He checked it, frowning. Speaking of the professor, he wants to meet. Says he's got new data on the collective. Ben closed his fist, extinguishing the energy. Let's go. Professor Hex's lab had changed. Gone were the clean, minimalist workstations. Now, holographic displays covered every wall. Thick cables ran across the floor to whirring machinery. The air smelled like ozone and something metallic. Ah! Team Tennyson, Hex greeted them, looking more disheveled than before. His normally perfect hair stuck up at odd angles. Perfect timing. I've made a breakthrough. He tapped a console. A 3D model of swirling energy appeared in the center of the room. The Mana Collective isn't just hungry, Hex explained, his eyes reflecting the purple glow of the hologram. It's intelligent. It's learning. After your encounter, it changed its feeding pattern. Kevin leaned against a desk, crossing his arms. How so? It's targeting infrastructure now, Hex said. He pulled up a map of Bellwood. Red dots blinked across the grid. Power plants, cell towers, satellite dishes. It's building something. A network, Gwen realized, studying the pattern. It's creating a circuit. Precisely, Ms. Tennyson. Hex nodded, impressed. A circuit that resonates at the exact frequency of Anodite energy. Ben stepped closer to the hologram. It's setting a trap. For us. For you, Hex corrected, pointing at Ben. Your cousin has been manipulating mana since childhood. Her signature is controlled, predictable. Yours. He made an explosive gesture with his hands. Yours is chaotic. Raw. Irresistible to the collective. Great, Ben muttered. I'm cosmic catnip. Hex pulled a small case from his pocket. Inside were 3 earpieces. Biodampeners, he explained, handing them out. They won't mask you completely, but they'll reduce your signature enough to give us an advantage. Ben took one, examining it suspiciously. Last tech you gave me melted. Because you overloaded it, Hex said. These are stronger. But they're not invincible, Mr. Tennyson. Control is still essential. Kevin tucked the earpiece away. So what's the plan? Wait for this thing to make a move. Actually, Hex tapped his console again. It's already making one. City power grid is showing massive fluctuations. Main power station on the east side. Ben's scanner band flashed yellow as his heart rate increased. Let's go. Ben headed for the door, then stopped, turning back to Hex. You coming this time? Hex hesitated, adjusting his glasses. I'm a researcher, not a field agent. We could use your expertise, Gwen said, though her tone suggested she wasn't entirely convinced. Hex sighed, grabbing a slim silver case. I suppose observation is better firsthand. The Bellwood Municipal Power Station was a nightmare of twisted metal and dancing electricity when they arrived. Blue-white arcs leaped between transformers. Workers fled the compound, screaming about floating monsters. Kevin slammed on the brakes, skidding to a stop outside the main gate. Subtle. Inside the fence, a dozen translucent creatures floated. They weren't solid, more like person-shaped holes in reality. Blue energy crackled inside their outlines as they ripped cables from pylons, absorbing the power. Energy constructs, Hex said from the back seat, scanning with a handheld device. Extensions of the collective. Not as powerful as the main entity, but numerous. Can we hurt them? Ben asked. Physical attacks will disrupt their form temporarily, Hex replied. Energy attacks will only feed them. Kevin touched the car door, absorbing the metal. Guess that means I'm up first. They exited the vehicle. Ben activated his scanner band, watching the LEDs fluctuate as he gathered energy in his hands. Gwen's eyes glowed as she prepared shielding constructs. Kevin didn't wait. He charged the nearest energy phantom, tackling it to the ground. His metal fist connected with its face, or where a face would be. The creature distorted, rippling like water before reassembling. They reform. Kevin shouted, dodging a blue energy blast. Like hitting smoke. Gwen erected shields to block stray bolts of electricity. Ben, try something solid. Ben concentrated. He'd been practicing this all week. He formed a baseball-sized sphere of magenta energy between his palms, compressing it, making it denser. Batter up. Ben hurled the sphere at a cluster of phantoms. The energy ball struck with surprising force, exploding on impact. 3 phantoms scattered, their forms temporarily disrupted. It worked. Ben pumped his fist. His excitement was short-lived. The phantoms regrouped, focusing on him. 6 energy blasts converged on his position. Shield. Ben crossed his arms. A protective bubble formed, but it wasn't a clean, geometric dome Gwen created. It was unstable, flickering like a bad TV signal. 2 blasts penetrated, slamming into Ben's chest. He flew backward, crashing into a chain-link fence. Ben. Gwen sprinted toward him, deflecting attacks. Ben groaned, pushing himself up. His shirt was singed, smoking slightly. The scanner on his wrist flashed red. "I'm fine," he wheezed. "Just, winded." Kevin was surrounded, swinging wildly as phantoms circled him. Each hit connected, but the creatures reformed almost instantly. "We need a new strategy," Kevin shouted. Hex stood back, near the car, observing. He touched his earpiece. "The phantoms are connected to a central node. Look for a transformer that's glowing brighter than the others." Ben scanned the compound. There, a massive transformer at the center of the station pulsed with unnatural light. Blue tendrils extended from it like a web, connecting to each phantom. "Found it," Ben said. He looked at his Omnitrix. Still dead. Time for Plan B. He closed his eyes, focusing on the lessons from the past week. Gwen had taught him about mana flow, about shaping energy through visualization. He pictured a spear, long, sharp, and most importantly, dense. The scanner band flashed yellow, then orange as energy gathered in his right hand. It extended outward, forming a jagged lance of magenta light. "I need a clear shot," Ben yelled. Kevin understood immediately. He slammed his fists into the ground, creating a shockwave that temporarily scattered the phantoms. "Now!" Ben threw. The energy spear shot across the compound, trailing sparks. It struck the transformer dead center. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the transformer exploded. A wave of blue-white light flashed outward. The phantoms convulsed, their forms destabilizing as their connection broke. One by one, they dissipated into wisps of smoke. The power station fell silent. The only sound was the hum of damaged equipment and the team's heavy breathing. "We did it?" Kevin asked, dropping his metal coating. "You disrupted a node," Hex said, approaching with his scanner. "The collective is retreating to regroup." Ben wiped sweat from his forehead, grinning. "Not bad for a rookie, huh?" Gwen didn't share his enthusiasm. This was too easy. Why would it expose a vulnerability like that? "Sometimes the bad guys are just dumb," Ben shrugged. "No," Gwen shook her head. "Something's wrong. It's like it wanted us to." A piercing alarm blared from Hex's scanner. He stared at it, eyes widening. "Energy surge!" Hex shouted. Massive signature approaching from the west. The ground beneath them trembled. The air crackled with static electricity. Hair stood on end. The sky darkened as if a storm had rolled in without warning. Then, the darkness took shape. It wasn't the smoke-like entity from the observatory. This was more defined, more solid. A swirling vortex of purple-black energy, 20 feet tall, with tendrils whipping out like living lightning. At its center, 2 points of intense white light served as eyes. The Mana Collective had evolved. "That's new," Kevin said, backing up. A voice boomed in their minds, vibrating their skulls. "Catalyst. Found you." Ben's scanner band flashed solid red. The Omnitrix sparked, reacting to the massive energy field. It was tracking us, Gwen realized. The phantoms were just scouts. "We need to move." Hex yelled, retreating toward the car. "That form is too stable to disrupt with our current resources." Ben stood his ground. "We can take it. We heard it before." "Ben, don't," Gwen reached for him. Too late. Ben thrust both hands forward, unleashing a concentrated beam of magenta energy. The blast hit the collective dead center. And disappeared. Absorbed without effect. Nourishment. The entity's form expanded, growing larger. A tendril lashed out, faster than Ben could react. It struck him in the chest, lifting him off the ground. Pain like nothing he'd ever felt coursed through his body. It wasn't just physical, it felt like the energy was being sucked directly from his cells. "Ben!" Kevin shouted. He charged, leaping onto the tendril. The entity flicked Kevin away like an insect. He crashed through the fence, landing in a crumpled heap 30 feet away. Gwen attacked from multiple angles, firing concentrated mana bolts. Each one disappeared into the collective's mass, making it pulse brighter. It's feeding on the attacks. Hex yelled. Fall back. The tendril dropped Ben. He hit the ground hard, gasping. His skin was pale, almost translucent. The scanner band was dead. The Omnitrix sparked violently. Gwen ran to him, helping him stand. We need to go. No, Ben pushed her away. He was shaking, but his eyes burned with determination. I can stop it. He looked at the Omnitrix. The faceplate flickered weakly, trying to restart. Ben had an idea, a terrible, desperate idea. Come on, watch, he muttered. One more time. He slammed his hand onto the Omnitrix core. Nothing happened. The collective loomed closer. Empty vessel. Give more. Ben closed his eyes. He reached deep inside himself, to the place where the Anodite spark lived. But instead of pulling the energy out, he pushed it into the Omnitrix. The pain was immediate and intense. It felt like his arm was being torn apart atom by atom. The Omnitrix screeched, the sound like metal being shredded. Green sparks mixed with magenta energy, crawling up Ben's arm. Ben, stop. Gwen screamed. You'll kill yourself. The Omnitrix core suddenly blazed with blinding light, not green, but a swirling mixture of green and magenta. The transformation began, but it was wrong. Unstable. Ben's body shifted, changed, grew. His skin hardened, turning red-hot. Flames erupted across his shoulders and head. But the fire wasn't orange, it was magenta, crackling with Anodite energy. Heat blast. The voice that emerged was layered, echoing. But, different. The transformed Ben stood tall. Heat blast's body, but coursing with Anodite power instead of normal flames. His eyes glowed pink instead of yellow. Fascinating, Hex whispered, scanning frantically. The alien DNA is conducting the Anodite energy like a biological circuit. The collective paused, its tendrils retracting slightly. Altered. Unknown. Yeah, Ben's dual-toned voice answered. Let me introduce myself properly. He thrust his hands forward. Instead of normal fireballs, condensed spheres of magenta plasma shot forth. They struck the collective and didn't disappear. They burned, creating holes in the entity's form. The collective shrieked in their minds, a sound like digital feedback. It lashed out with multiple tendrils. Ben dodged with unexpected agility. He caught a tendril, and where he touched it, the energy began to corrode, like acid eating through metal. I'm not just generating heat, Ben realized aloud. I'm converting your energy frequency. Making it incompatible with your form. He launched into the air on a column of magenta flame, circling the entity. With each blast, each touch, the collective's form destabilized further. Retreat. Adapt. Return. The entity collapsed inward, its mass shrinking rapidly. With a sound like thunder, it disappeared, leaving only scorched earth and the smell of ozone. Ben landed, the flames around his body flickering lower. The transformation was unstable, he could feel it breaking down. The Omnitrix symbol on his chest flashed red. That was. Gwen stared, wide-eyed. Awesome, Ben finished. Then he collapsed. The transformation reversed explosively. Green light mixed with magenta in a blinding flash. When it cleared, Ben lay unconscious on the ground, back in human form. The Omnitrix smoked, but the faceplate glowed a weak green. Kevin limped over, nursing a bruised arm. Did he just win? No, Hex said, kneeling beside Ben. His scanner showed erratic readings. He drove it away. But it will return, stronger and adapted to this new energy signature. Gwen placed a hand on Ben's forehead. He's burning up. We need to get him to Plumber Medical. As they loaded Ben into Kevin's car, Hex lingered, collecting samples from the scorched ground where the collective had disappeared. His eyes gleamed with scientific fascination. The catalyst exceeds all projections, he whispered to himself. The Plumber Medical Bay hummed with activity. Ben lay on a monitoring bed, surrounded by holographic readouts. Grandpa Max studied the displays with a concerned frown. His cellular energy is dangerously low, Max said. But stable. Whatever he did out there drained him almost completely. Gwen sat beside the bed, her hand resting on Ben's arm. Kevin paced the room, unable to keep still. He merged his Anodite energy with the alien DNA, Gwen explained. Created something new. And incredibly dangerous, Max added. The human body isn't designed to channel that much power. If he keeps this up. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. What about the collective? Kevin asked. Is it gone? No, Hex said from the doorway. He entered, carrying a tablet. It's regrouping. According to my calculations, we have approximately 48 hours before it returns, stronger and adapted to counter Ben's hybrid form. Max turned to Hex. Professor. The plumbers appreciate your assistance, but I'm concerned about the risks of your approach. Those biodampeners didn't protect them at all. With respect, Magister Tennyson, Hex replied smoothly, the dampeners weren't designed for an entity of this magnitude. But they did collect valuable data. He held up his tablet. Data we can use to develop a more permanent solution. What kind of solution? Gwen asked suspiciously. A containment field, Hex explained. Tuned to the collective's specific frequency. It could trap the entity, preventing it from feeding or adapting further. Kevin stopped pacing. And how exactly do we build that? I have the necessary equipment in my laboratory, Hex said. But I'll need help calibrating it to match the exact resonance of both the collective and Anodite energy. Gwen crossed her arms. You mean you need Ben? And you, Ms. Tennyson, Hex nodded. Your controlled energy signature provides the baseline. Ben's chaotic output gives us the range. Together, we can create a perfect trap. Max looked unconvinced. Ben needs rest. And proper training, not more experimental tech. With all due respect, Magister, Hex said, his tone cooling slightly, we don't have time for traditional training methods. The collective is evolving rapidly. It's already advanced from a simple energy cloud to a quasi-physical entity capable of targeted attacks. He's right, Kevin said reluctantly. That thing was 10 times stronger than at the observatory. Next time might be our last chance. Max sighed heavily. 48 hours, you said? Hex nodded. Fine. When Ben wakes up, you can proceed with calibrations. But, Max stepped closer to Hex, his voice dropping, if anything happens to my grandson, there won't be a place in this galaxy where you can hide from me. Hex smiled thinly. Understood, Magister. Ben woke 4 hours later with a pounding headache and a mouth that felt like it was stuffed with cotton. He groaned, squinting against the bright lights of the medical bay. Welcome back, Gwen said, moving into his field of vision. How do you feel? Like I got hit by a truck, Ben croaked. Then the truck backed up and hit me again. That's what happens when you pull stupid stunts, Kevin said from his position against the wall. Despite his harsh words, relief showed on his face. Ben pushed himself to a sitting position, wincing. Did we win? You drove it away, Gwen explained. But it's coming back. Ben looked at his Omnitrix. The faceplate glowed a steady green, still weak, but functioning. What did I do, exactly, he asked. That wasn't a normal transformation. You channeled your Anodite energy through the alien DNA, Gwen said. Created a hybrid form. Half heat blast, half anodite. Sick, Ben grinned weakly. I was awesome, right? Kevin rolled his eyes. If by awesome you mean nearly killing yourself, then yeah, totally radical, dude. Grandpa. Max entered, carrying a tray of food. You're awake. Good. You need to eat and regain your strength. Ben took the tray eagerly. As he wolfed down a sandwich, Max explained the situation, Hexa's proposal, the 48-hour window, the plan to create a containment field. So I just need to provide some energy samples. Ben asked, mouth full. Sounds easy. Not easy, Max warned. And not safe. Your energy levels are dangerously depleted. If you push too hard too soon, I'll be fine, Ben interrupted. He flexed his hand, producing a small flicker of magenta light. Even that tiny display made him dizzy. See? Already recharging. Gwen and Kevin exchanged concerned looks. When do we start? Ben asked. Professor Hexa's laboratory had transformed again. The central area had been cleared to make room for a large, circular platform surrounded by sensor arrays. The walls were covered in equations and energy diagrams. Welcome. Hex greeted them, practically buzzing with excitement. Everything is prepared for calibration. Ben eyed the platform suspiciously. What's that? An energy resonance chamber, Hex explained. It will analyze your mana output and translate it into usable data for the containment field. Looks like a fancy tanning bed, Kevin commented. Hex ignored him. Ms. Tennyson, you'll go first. We need a baseline of controlled anodite energy. Gwen nodded. She stepped onto the platform. The sensors hummed to life, surrounding her with a web of pale blue light. She closed her eyes, raised her hands, and summoned her power. Magenta energy flowed smoothly around her. The sensors pulsed, recording data. Hex watched the readouts with intense focus. Perfect, he murmured. Absolutely perfect control. Frequency stable at 1.6 terahertz. After 5 minutes, Gwen stepped down. She looked unfazed, not even slightly tired. Your turn, Mr. Tennyson, Hex said, gesturing to the platform. Ben stepped up. Immediately, the sensors responded differently, fluctuating wildly even before he used any power. Fascinating, Hex said. Your passive energy output is already 3 times higher than your cousin's. Is that good? Ben asked. It's why the collective wants you specifically, Hex replied. Now, please generate a simple mana construct. A sphere would be ideal. Ben focused. He formed a wobbly ball of energy between his palms. The sensors went crazy, readings spiking across all monitors. Incredible, Hex breathed. Your frequency range is unprecedented. 1.2 to 3.8 terahertz. No wonder the dampener couldn't contain it. Is that what we need? Kevin asked impatiently. It's a start, Hex said. But to properly calibrate the containment field, we need to see the hybrid transformation. Gwen stepped forward. No way. He's still recovering. I can do it, Ben said. He looked at the Omnitrix. It was fully green now, recharged enough for a transformation. Just one quick change. No fighting. Hex adjusted his glasses. The chamber will contain any energy discharge. It's perfectly safe. Before anyone could object further, Ben activated the Omnitrix. He scrolled through the available aliens, stopping on a familiar silhouette. Let's try something different this time, he said, slapping down the core. Green light flashed. Ben's body changed, growing taller, lankier. His skin turned blue-black, dotted with star-like points of light. The transformation completed, revealing Alien X, one of Ben's most powerful forms, and usually his most problematic. Alien X. Everyone stared in shock. Ben, are you crazy? Gwen exclaimed. You can't control Alien X. You'll be trapped in debate with Serena and Bellicus. But something was different. Ben moved immediately, flexing his starfield hands. His voice, when he spoke, was still layered, but there was only one consciousness speaking. I'm in control, he said, sounding surprised himself. I can feel them, but they're quiet. Hex's eyes were wide, his scanner practically smoking as it tried to process the readings. The Anodite energy, he whispered. It's acting as a buffer between the personalities. Fascinating. Ben raised a hand. Stars swirled around his fingers, but instead of the usual white, they glowed magenta. The entire chamber hummed with power. This is incredible, Ben said. I can feel everything. The sensors around the platform began to overload, sparking and smoking. Hex frantically typed commands into his console. The readings are off the charts, he said. This is beyond what I anticipated. Kevin moved closer to Gwen. I don't like this. Me neither, Gwen agreed. Her eyes narrowed as she watched Hex's expression, less concerned than enraptured. Ben's starfield body began to pulse with increasing intensity. The magenta stars grew brighter, swirling faster. Ben, you need to stop, Gwen called. You're overloading the system. Ben didn't seem to hear her. His eyes, 3 of them, were fixed on some distant point, seeing something beyond the room. I can see it, he said, his voice echoing strangely. The collective. It's not just feeding. It's searching. For something old. Something buried. Hex froze. What did you say? Ben raised both hands. Reality itself seemed to warp around him. I can reach it. I can end this now. Ben, no. Gwen shouted. Too late. A pulse of energy erupted from Ben's body, shattering the sensor array. The shockwave knocked everyone back. The lights in the lab went out, plunging them into darkness. Emergency backup lights clicked on seconds later, bathing the room in red. Ben lay on the platform, back in human form, unconscious again. Hex picked himself up off the floor. Despite the destruction, he looked pleased. Did you get what you needed? Kevin asked accusingly, helping Gwen to her feet. More than enough, Hex replied, recovering his composure. The data is unprecedented. Gwen rushed to Ben's side. He's stable. Just unconscious. She glared at Hex. What was that about being perfectly safe? Hex had the decency to look apologetic. I didn't anticipate he would choose a celestialsapian form. The energy interaction was unexpected. What did he mean? Kevin asked. About the collective searching for something. Likely just hallucinations from the power surge, Hex said dismissively. The important thing is, we have the data we need to build the containment field. Gwen lifted Ben with a mana platform. We're taking him back to Plumber Medical. When he's recovered, we'll discuss the next steps. Hex nodded. Of course. I'll begin construction immediately. Time is of the essence. As they left with Ben, Hex turned back to his damaged equipment. The smile that spread across his face was cold and calculating. Perfect, he whispered. Perfect in every way. Ben woke up in the Plumber Medical Bay again, but this time. He wasn't alone. Kevin sat in a chair beside the bed, tinkering with a small device. How long was I out? Ben groaned. 6 hours, Kevin replied without looking up. You're making a habit of this. Ben pushed himself up. His head felt clearer this time, and the fatigue wasn't as crushing. Where's Gwen? With your grandpa. Arguing about Hex. Ben frowned. Why? Did something happen? Kevin set down his tool. You don't remember? You went all cosmic fortune teller on us. Said the collective was searching for something old and buried. I did. Ben tried to recall, but his memory was foggy. I remember turning into Alien X, but after that. You blacked out, Kevin said. But not before frying Hex's fancy equipment. Ben swung his legs over the side of the bed. The Omnitrix was fully functional now, the green glow steady and strong. He felt better, stronger. The Anodite energy had replenished faster this time. What's Gwen worried about? Ben asked. She thinks Hex isn't telling us everything, Kevin explained. And I agree. The guy's too interested in your hybrid transformations. Like, creepy interested. He's a scientist, Ben shrugged. They get excited about weird stuff. It's more than that, Kevin insisted. While you were out, I did some digging. Hex has a history with Anodite research. His earlier papers were all about weaponizing mana energy. That gave Ben pause. You think he's using us? I think he knows more about the collective than he's saying, Kevin replied. And I think he's way too happy when you nearly blow yourself up. Before Ben could respond, the door opened. Gwen entered, looking frustrated. How's the patient? She asked, forcing a smile. Ready to get back in action, Ben said. What's the plan with Hex? Gwen sighed. Grandpa wants to proceed with caution. But we're running out of time. The energy scanners are showing increased activity across the city. The collective is gathering strength. Then we build the containment field, Ben said decisively. Whether Hex is shady or not, we need his tech. Agreed, Kevin nodded reluctantly. But we keep our eyes open. Gwen hesitated. There's something else. Your transformation into Alien X, it was different. You maintained control without getting trapped in debate. Yeah, it was weird, Ben admitted. Like the Anodite energy created a bridge between me and the personalities. It's dangerous, Ben, Gwen warned. Mixing cosmic energy sources like that, there could be consequences we can't predict. Ben stood up. We don't have a choice. The collective is coming back stronger. We need every advantage. The plumber alarm system suddenly blared. Red lights flashed in the corridor outside. Max's voice came over the intercom, all personnel to stations. Energy surge detected in downtown Bellwood. Repeat, massive energy surge. The trio exchanged looks. So much for our 48-hour window, Kevin muttered. Let's go, Ben said, already moving toward the door. Downtown Bellwood had become a nightmare landscape. The sky above the city center swirled with unnatural clouds, streaked with blue lightning. Buildings cracked as energy tendrils wrapped around skyscrapers, draining power from every source. At the center, hovering above the intersection of Main and Broadway, the collective had manifested. It was larger than before, more defined. The vague vortex had evolved into something resembling a massive, hooded figure, composed entirely of swirling energy. Its face was a void beneath the hood, with 3 points of white light forming eyes and mouth. That's not good, Kevin said as they screeched to a stop 3 blocks away. People ran screaming in all directions. Cars had stalled, their electrical systems drained. The air tasted metallic, charged with static. Gwen's phone rang. She answered, putting it on speaker. I see it, Hex's voice came through, tense and urgent. It's evolved again. Faster than I anticipated. Where are you? Ben demanded. My laboratory. The containment device is ready, but it needs to be deployed at the epicenter. Directly beneath the entity. So we need to get close to that thing, Kevin said. Awesome. Ben looked at the Omnitrix. I'll create a distraction. You guys get the device from Hex and bring it to the center. No way, Gwen protested. We stay together. There's no time to argue, Ben said. His eyes hardened with determination. We each do what we do best. Kevin, you're the tech guy. Gwen, you can shield him. I'm the distraction expert. Kevin and Gwen exchanged looks. Neither liked it, but the logic was sound. Fine, Kevin said. But don't do anything stupid until we get back. Define stupid, Ben grinned. Kevin punched his arm. Just stay alive, Tennyson. As Kevin's car sped off toward the university, Ben turned toward the looming entity. He activated the Omnitrix, scrolling through his options. Okay, big, dark, and hungry, Ben muttered. Let's see how you like round 2. He slammed down the core. Green light flashed. His body shifted and changed, growing taller, bulkier. Crystals erupted from his shoulders and back, but they weren't the usual green. They glowed with inner magenta light. Diamond Head. The layered voice announced. Version 2.0. The hybrid transformation was more stable this time. Ben felt the alien biology working in concert with his anodite energy, rather than fighting it. The crystal body acted as a natural conduit, focusing and amplifying the mana. Ben launched himself forward, using crystal platforms to leap between buildings. As he approached the entity, its massive head turned toward him. Returned. Evolved. Like US. Yeah, I'm full of surprises, Ben called. He generated a crystal sword in each hand, the blades glowing with magenta energy. Let's dance. He leaped, slashing at the nearest energy tendril. The crystal blades cut through, disrupting the flow. The entity shrieked, more in surprise than pain. Adapted. Not same. That's right, Ben landed on a rooftop, generating crystal shards infused with mana. I learn fast. He fired a barrage of shards. They pierced the entity's form, creating disruptions wherever they hit. The collective retaliated, lashing out with multiple tendrils. Ben dodged, weaving between attacks with surprising agility for a crystal being. Each time a tendril got close, he sliced it with his energized blades. But the entity was learning too. It shifted its tactics, creating a field of disruptive energy around itself. When Ben's next crystal projectile entered the field, it disintegrated. Consume. The collective surged forward, enveloping the building Ben stood on. He leaped clear just as the structure's upper floors crumbled, drained of all energy, electrical, kinetic, potential, all of it converted to fuel for the entity. Okay, new plan, Ben muttered. He slammed his fists into the street. Crystal spikes erupted in a wave, racing toward the entity. Each spike glowed with concentrated mana, creating a network of energy that the collective couldn't easily absorb all at once. The entity recoiled, its form destabilizing momentarily. Ben pressed the advantage, charging forward. He created a massive crystal hammer, channeling every bit of mana he could spare into it. The hammer connected with the entity's core. For a moment, it seemed to work, the collective's form wavered, shrinking slightly. Then it adapted. The entity's mouth opened wider, becoming a swirling vortex. It began to pull, not just energy, but matter itself. Ben's crystal spikes were uprooted, drawn toward the vortex. Cars, debris, even chunks of asphalt were sucked in. Ben anchored himself with crystal pillars, but the pull was too strong. The pillars cracked. He felt his own energy being drained, pulled toward the hungry void. Kevin, Gwen, he grunted into his plumber badge. Whatever you're doing, do it faster. Kevin's car screeched to a halt outside Hex's lab. They ran inside to find the professor standing beside a device that looked like a silver octagon with a glowing blue core. The containment field generator, Hex explained hurriedly. It's calibrated to the collective's exact frequency. Kevin examined it quickly. How does it work? Place it directly beneath the entity, Hex said. Activate the sequence with this. He handed Kevin a small remote. It will generate an inverted resonance field that will trap the collective and prevent it from feeding. What's the catch? Gwen asked suspiciously. Hex hesitated. It requires an energy source to initiate the field. A significant one. How significant? Kevin pressed. Anodite significant, Hex admitted. One of you will need to power it. Gwen's eyes narrowed. And you didn't mention this before because. Because you wouldn't have agreed, Hex said simply. And we're out of options. Kevin grabbed the device. Let's go. Ben's buying us time. As they headed for the door, Gwen paused. Aren't you coming? I'll monitor from here, Hex replied, gesturing to his equipment. I can provide guidance remotely. Gwen didn't like it, but there was no time to argue. They rushed back to Kevin's car, the containment device secure in the trunk. Ben was losing ground. The collective had adapted to his crystal attacks, developing a countermeasure for each strategy. Worse, it was learning to feed directly on his mana output. Every energy-infused attack now strengthened the entity instead of harming it. Ben had resorted to pure physical tactics, crystal shields, barricades, and barriers, but those were crumbling under the collective's increased power. The Omnitrix symbol on his chest flashed red. The transformation was reaching its limit. Come on, guys, Ben muttered. As if in answer, Kevin's car sped into view, weaving through abandoned vehicles. It screeched to a stop a block away. Ben. Gwen called through the plumber badge. We have the device. We need to get it under the entity's core. Ben looked up. The collective hovered approximately 50 feet above the main intersection. Its core, the densest part of the swirling mass, pulsated with stolen energy. On it, Ben created a crystal platform beneath his feet. He launched himself upward, directly into the entity's field. The pain was immediate and intense. Being inside the energy field felt like being dissolved from the inside out. His crystal form began to crack, magenta light leaking from the fissures. But he pushed through, using the last of his strength to throw a crystal spear through the center of the entity. The disruption created a momentary hole in the field. Now! Ben shouted. Kevin gunned the engine. The car shot forward, speeding directly beneath the entity's core. Gwen's hands glowed as she maintained a protective shield around them. Kevin skidded to a stop at the epicenter. Gwen grabbed the containment device from the trunk. She slammed it down on the pavement, directly below the collective. It's in position. Gwen yelled into her badge. Ben fell back to street level, his transformation failing. In a flash of green and magenta light, he returned to human form, dropping to one knee from exhaustion. The collective sensed the threat. It began to contract, concentrating its mass to move away from the device. Activate it. Ben shouted. Kevin hit the button on the remote. The device hummed to life, its core glowing brighter. Then it stopped. The light dimmed. It needs power. Kevin yelled, checking the readouts. Anodite energy. Gwen immediately placed her hands on the device. Pink energy flowed from her palms into the octagonal frame. The device responded, glowing brighter, but not enough. It's not sufficient, Gwen strained. I can't generate enough output. Ben staggered to his feet. He looked at the Omnitrix, recharged enough for one more transformation, but barely. He made his decision. Move over, Ben said, joining Gwen at the device. We do this together. He placed his hands beside hers on the device. His energy flow was wilder, less controlled, but more abundant. The device began to hum louder, its core shifting from blue to purple as it absorbed their combined mana. It's working! Kevin exclaimed. Above them, the collective shrieked. A pillar of blue-white light erupted from the device, engulfing the entity. The light formed a dome, then contracted, compressing the collective into a smaller and smaller space. Keep it steady. Kevin urged, watching the readouts. Almost there. Ben grunted with effort. His vision blurred. He felt the energy draining from his cells, just like before. But this time, he held back a reserve. Just enough. He slapped the Omnitrix with his free hand. Ben, no. Gwen shouted. Green light flashed. Ben transformed into a small, frog-like alien with a strange dial on his back. Clockwork. The transformation was immediately different. Clockwork's body glowed with magenta energy instead of its usual green. The time manipulation alien's natural energy combined with Ben's Anodite power in a way that multiplied both. Time, to finish this, Ben's mechanical voice ground out. He placed both hands on the device. Instead of just mana, he poured in chronokinetic energy. The device's octagonal frame spun, creating a temporal displacement field around the collective. The entity froze in place, caught between moments. The containment field solidified, turning from energy into a crystalline structure that encased the collective completely. It's contained. Kevin exclaimed. Ben stepped back. The hybrid clockwork transformation was even more draining than the others. He felt his consciousness slipping. Did it work? He asked, his voice distorting as the transformation began to fail. Before anyone could answer, the crystalline prison cracked. A single fissure appeared, then another. Blue light leaked through. No. Gwen raised her hands, trying to reinforce the containment. Too late. The prison shattered. But instead of attacking, the collective contracted violently, shrinking to a fraction of its size. The compressed energy shot skyward like a bullet, disappearing into the clouds. It's retreating. Kevin shouted. The transformation reversed. Ben collapsed, barely conscious. The last thing he saw was Gwen and Kevin running toward him, their voices distant and fading. Then darkness. Ben woke to voices arguing. He kept his eyes closed, listening. Knew it wouldn't work. Gwen's voice, angry. You designed it to fail. I did no such thing, Hex replied calmly. The containment field was perfectly calibrated. But the entity is evolving faster than predicted. Convenient, Kevin's voice, dripping with sarcasm. Every time we face this thing, it just happens to be stronger than your tech can handle. Science requires trial and error, Hex said. We now have valuable data on, enough with the data. Gwen snapped. Ben nearly killed himself. Again. Ben opened his eyes. He was in a different room, not the Plumber Medical Bay, but what looked like a high-tech recovery suite in Hex's lab. Monitors displayed his vital signs. The Omnitrix glowed green, fully recharged. He's awake, Kevin noticed first. Gwen rushed to the bedside. Ben. How do you feel? Like I got hit by 2 trucks this time, Ben groaned, sitting up. What happened? The collective escaped, Hex explained, stepping closer. But it was damaged. Significantly. It's retreated to recover. So we heard it, Ben said. That's something. More than heard it, Hex said, unable to hide his excitement. You changed it. The chronomana fusion created a temporal disruption in its energy matrix. It can't maintain its advanced form anymore. Kevin crossed his arms. Which means it will return to a more primitive state, Hex explained. More physical, less energy-based. More vulnerable. How long do we have? Ben asked. Hex checked his tablet. Based on current readings, less than 12 hours. Ben swung his legs off the bed. Then we need a new plan. The containment field almost worked. We just need more power. No, Gwen said firmly. No more draining yourself to power Hex's devices. There has to be another way. An idea formed in Ben's mind. What if we don't try to contain it? What if we redirect it? Redirect it where? Kevin asked. The null void, Ben suggested. It's already a dimensional pocket. If we could open a portal directly under it. Hex's eyes lit up. That could work. We'd need to modify a null void projector to create a large enough aperture. The plumbers have one in their armory, Kevin said. And I've been working on an energy attractor, Hex added. A device that simulates a massive mana source. We could use it to lure the collective directly over the portal. So we bait it, trap it, and dump it, Ben summarized. I like it. Gwen still looked unconvinced. And who's going to power this attractor? Because it won't be Ben. Actually, Hex said thoughtfully, I've been developing a power cell based on the energy readings we've collected. It would provide sufficient output without requiring a live Anodite source. Kevin narrowed his eyes. That's mighty convenient. As I said, I've been researching, Hex replied smoothly. Preparing contingencies. Ben stood up. It doesn't matter. If it works, we use it. Gwen placed a hand on his arm. Ben, I don't trust this. You don't have to trust him, Ben said quietly. Just trust me. The room fell silent. Finally, Gwen nodded. Fine. But we do this together. All of us. Agreed, Hex said. I'll need to retrieve the energy attractor from my secure storage. And we'll need that null void projector. Kevin and I will get the projector, Gwen said. Ben, you stay here and rest. I'm fine, Ben protested. You're not, Kevin countered. And we need you at full strength when this thing comes back. Ben reluctantly agreed. As Gwen and Kevin left, Hex turned to his computer console. I'll begin reconfiguring the attractor, he said. It shouldn't take long. Ben watched him work. Despite his exhaustion, his mind was clear enough to notice things he'd missed before, the way Hex's eyes gleamed when discussing the collective, the precise notes he kept on Ben's transformations, the eagerness beneath his scientific demeanor. You know more than you're telling us, Ben said suddenly. About the collective. About what it's looking for. Hex's fingers paused over the keyboard. For a moment, his mask of professional detachment slipped. What makes you say that, Mr. Tennyson? When I was Alien X, I saw something, Ben said. Something old. Something buried. The collective wants it. Hex turned to face him fully. And what if I told you that something could change our understanding of energy manipulation forever? That it could be the key to unlimited power? I'd say you sound like a villain from a Saturday morning cartoon, Ben replied. What is it, really? Hex hesitated, then sighed. It's a nexus point. A convergence of dimensional boundaries where mana flows freely between realities. The Anodites call it the Well of Stars. And the collective wants to drink from it? Ben guessed. Essentially, yes, Hex nodded. But more importantly, whoever controls the well controls the flow of mana throughout this sector of the galaxy. And let me guess, Ben's eyes narrowed. You want to control it too? Hex smiled thinly. I want to study it, Mr. Tennyson. Knowledge is power, after all. Right, Ben said, unconvinced. Just studying. Rest, Hex said, turning back to his work. You'll need your strength. Ben lay back, but he didn't close his eyes. He watched Hex, noting which files the professor accessed, which calculations he made. Something wasn't adding up, and Ben was determined to figure out what before the collective returned. Gwen and Kevin returned 2 hours later with the null void projector. It was a bulky device, requiring both of them to carry it. Got it, Kevin announced. Had to sign about 50 forms and promise my firstborn to Grandpa Max, but we got it. Hex examined the projector with obvious excitement. Excellent. This will work perfectly with the modifications I've designed. He opened a large case, revealing what looked like a silver gyroscope surrounded by curved panels. The energy attractor. It simulates an anodite energy signature, amplified tenfold. And this is what powers it. Kevin held up a small cylindrical device Hex had given him. It glowed with a blue-white light. The power cell, yes, Hex confirmed. It contains compressed mana, harvested from our previous encounters with the collective. Gwen took the cell, examining it skeptically. You've been collecting energy samples. For research purposes, Hex said. And fortunately, it provides us with a power source that won't drain either of you. Ben, who had been silently observing, stepped forward. So what's the plan? Where do we set this up? The city center, Hex said. The same location where the collective last manifested. It will likely return to the same spot, drawn to the residual energy signature. And we just wait for it? Kevin asked. The energy attractor will accelerate its arrival, Hex explained. Once it appears, we activate the null void projector directly beneath it. The attractor's pull, combined with the collective's own hunger, should draw it in before it can adapt. Sounds too easy, Gwen said. Sometimes the simplest solutions are the most effective, Hex replied. Ben activated the Omnitrix, scrolling through his aliens. I'll be ready with a backup plan. Just in case. Let's hope we don't need it, Gwen said. The city center had been evacuated. Plumber agents maintained a perimeter, keeping civilians away from the potential danger zone. The team set up the equipment at the main intersection, directly where the collective had appeared last. Kevin finished connecting the null void projector to a portable power source. Projectors online. Range is limited, though. We'll only get one shot at this. Hex positioned the energy attractor in the center of the intersection. He attached the power cell, which immediately began to glow brighter. Once activated, the attractor will mimic an Anodite power signature approximately 20 times stronger than either of you at full output, Hex explained. The collective won't be able to resist. Ben looked at the sky. It was clear now, no sign of the unnatural storm that had accompanied the entity before. How long until, a low rumble interrupted him. The ground trembled slightly. The air pressure dropped, making their ears pop. It's coming, Gwen said, her eyes glowing pink as she sensed the approaching energy. Earlier than expected, Hex noted, checking his scanner. Fascinating. Everyone to positions, Ben ordered. Kevin, stay with the projector. Gwen, be ready to shield us if this goes wrong. What about you? Gwen asked. Ben activated the Omnitrix. I'm the backup plan. The rumbling intensified. Clouds formed overhead, swirling in an unnatural pattern. The air crackled with static electricity. Activating attractor, now, Hex announced. Pressing a sequence on his control pad. The gyroscope-like device began to spin, its panels glowing with intense magenta light. It hummed, a sound that resonated at a frequency they felt rather than heard. The response was immediate. The clouds overhead parted as something descended, not the massive, hooded figure from before, but a swirling sphere of dark energy, more compact and dense. It's changed, Gwen observed. Just like Hex said. More physical, Hex agreed, excitement evident in his voice. More vulnerable. The sphere descended slowly, drawn to the attractor. Tendrils of energy extended from its surface, reaching toward the device. Wait for it, Kevin said, his finger hovering over the projector's activation switch. Need it closer. The sphere dropped faster, now just 30 feet above the attractor. 20 feet. 10. Now. Ben shouted. Kevin hit the switch. The null void projector hummed to life. A red-orange vortex opened directly beneath the collective, swirling like a whirlpool. The entity paused, hovering between the attractor and the portal. It pulsed, as if assessing the situation. It's resisting, Hex said, adjusting the attractor's output. The pull isn't strong enough. Crank it up. Kevin urged. Hex increased the power. The attractor's glow intensified, the gyroscope spinning faster. The power cell began to flash warnings, overheating. The collective drifted lower, now caught between the opposing forces of the portal and the attractor. It contracted, then expanded, its form fluctuating. Then something unexpected happened. The sphere split in two. What the? Kevin started. One half descended toward the attractor. The other shot upward, away from the portal's pull. It divided. Gwen exclaimed. It's sacrificing part of itself. The lower half touched the attractor. Instead of feeding on it, it enveloped the device completely. The attractor's light flickered, then died. No. Hex shouted, frantically typing commands. It's disrupting the power cell. The upper half of the collective pulsed, growing larger as it absorbed ambient energy from the surroundings. It began to take shape, forming a crude, humanoid figure. Plan B it is, Ben said grimly. He slammed down the Omnitrix core. Green light flashed. His body changed, grew, evolved. But instead of a standard alien form, the transformation immediately merged with his Anodite energy. His skin turned deep purple, crackling with magenta electricity. His head flamed with energy. Chromastone. Anodite. The hybrid form was even more stable than before. Ben felt the crystalline alien's natural ability to absorb and redirect energy amplified tenfold by his Anodite powers. Everyone get back. Ben shouted, his voice resonating strangely. I'll handle this. He launched himself upward, directly toward the forming entity. His body trailed magenta light as he flew. The collective sensed him coming. It lashed out with tendrils of dark energy. Ben caught them with his hands, absorbing the energy through his crystalline skin. The power flooded through him, converting to his own frequency. Thanks for the boost, Ben said. He redirected the absorbed energy, firing a concentrated beam back at the entity. The beam struck true, piercing the collective center. The entity shrieked, a sound that vibrated the air itself. Its form destabilized, edges blurring. Below, the situation worsened. The half that had engulfed the attractor was expanding, spreading across the intersection like liquid shadow. The portal's destabilizing. Kevin shouted, trying to maintain the projector's connection. We're losing it. Gwen created mana constructs, trying to push the spreading shadow toward the portal. But her energy was simply absorbed on contact. Hex stood apart, watching with an expression that mixed fascination and calculation. He reached into his coat, removing a small device unlike anything they'd seen before. Professor. Gwen called. We need help. Hex looked at her, then at the chaos around them. He made a decision. I'm sorry, Ms. Tennyson, he said. But this opportunity is too valuable to waste. He activated the device. A piercing sound cut through the air, not audible, but felt at an energy level. The collective responded immediately. Both halves pulsed in unison, then began to move toward Hex. What are you doing? Kevin demanded. Securing the future of energy research, Hex replied calmly. The collective isn't just an entity, it's a map. To the well of stars. Above, Ben heard the exchange through his plumber badge. Hex is betraying us. He tried to descend, but the upper half of the collective blocked his path. It had adapted to his attacks, forming a shield that dispersed his energy beams. Out of my way. Ben concentrated, channeling more power through his crystalline body. His form began to glow brighter, hotter. On the ground, Hex held his device higher. The spreading shadow converged on him, swirling around his feet but not attacking. I've modified the frequency to communicate rather than contain, Hex explained, backing toward his vehicle. The collective and I have come to an arrangement. You're insane, Gwen said. She tried to contain Hex with mana restraints, but the shadow intercepted, absorbing her constructs. I'm visionary, Hex corrected. The well of stars holds the key to unlimited energy. Clean, sustainable power for generations. And let me guess, Kevin growled, advancing on him. Hex Energy Corporation gets the patent. Progress requires investment, Hex shrugged. Above them, Ben had reached his limit. The collective was too adaptive, too quick to counter each strategy. Time for a desperate measure. He touched the Omnitrix symbol on his chest, triggering a manual override. The symbol flashed, cycling through aliens rapidly. Ben focused on a specific combination. "Let's see how you handle this," he muttered. The transformation shifted. Chromastone's crystalline body merged with a new form, the cosmic awareness of Alien X, channeled through Ben's Anodite energy. The result was blinding. Ben's body became a living constellation, stars swirling across a crystal canvas, pulsing with magenta light. Power radiated from him in waves. The collective recoiled, sensing a threat beyond its ability to absorb or counter. Ben raised his hands. Reality itself bent around his fingers. Enough. His voice echoed with power. The fabric of space-time rippled from the single word. The collective's form froze in place, caught in a localized time dilation. Ben descended to the ground, the air shimmering around him. Hex stared, his scientific detachment finally giving way to naked fear. "What have you done?" Hex whispered. "Something you didn't account for," Ben replied. The stars across his body pulsed. With each word. "I'm not just a catalyst, Professor. I'm the equalizer." He turned to the null void projector. With a gesture, the failing portal stabilized, expanding to encompass the entire intersection. The shadow at Hex's feet was pulled toward it, unable to resist the enhanced dimensional rift. "No." Hex clutched his device tighter. "You don't understand what you're throwing away." "I understand exactly what I'm doing," Ben said. He raised both hands, creating a gravitational pull that lifted both halves of the collective and drew them toward the portal. "Saving my city. My friends. My family." The shadow tore free from around Hex, drawn inexorably into the vortex. The frozen upper half followed, unable to resist the cosmic force Ben commanded. Hex lunged for the edge of the shadow, trying to maintain contact with the entity. "The well of stars. It will be lost." Kevin grabbed him, pulling him back. "Let it go, Professor. Class is dismissed." The collective, both halves, spiraled into the null void portal. As the last wisps disappeared, Ben made another gesture. The portal contracted, shrinking until it winked out of existence with a sound like thunder. Silence fell over the intersection. The unnatural clouds dispersed. Normal city sounds, distant sirens, the hum of power lines, gradually returned. Ben's transformation was unstable, too powerful to maintain. The cosmic form flickered, then collapsed in a flash of green and magenta light. He fell to his knees, human again, gasping for breath. "Ben!" Gwen ran to him, supporting him as he swayed. "Did it work?" Ben asked, his voice hoarse. "It worked," Kevin confirmed, still restraining Hex. What was that?" "I don't know," Ben admitted. "But it felt right." Hex struggled against Kevin's grip. "You fools. You've no idea what you've done. The well of stars could have revolutionized energy production across the galaxy. Or turned you into the next Vilgax," Ben countered. "Some things aren't meant to be found." Plumber vehicles arrived, surrounding the intersection. Grandpa Max emerged from the lead car, surveying the scene with a mixture of relief and concern. "The entity?" he asked. "In the null void," Gwen reported. "Along with any map to this well of stars Hex was after." Max nodded to the plumber agents. "Take Professor Hex into custody. Charges of endangering civilians, unauthorized energy experimentation, and attempted theft of alien technology." As Hex was led away, he looked back at Ben. "This isn't over, Tennyson. The well of stars will be found. If not by me, then by something worse than the collective. Ben struggled to his feet, leaning on Gwen for support. Then we'll handle that too. Max approached, placing a hand on Ben's shoulder. You okay, kiddo? Been better, Ben admitted. But I'll live. What you did? Max shook his head in amazement. Gwen's been practicing Anodite abilities for years, and she couldn't have done that. It wasn't just Anodite power, Ben explained. It was everything, the Omnitrix, the alien DNA, the mana. Working together instead of fighting each other. Integration, not domination, Gwen said, understanding dawning. That's what I've been trying to teach you. Guess I'm a slow learner, Ben grinned weakly. Kevin joined them, watching as plumber agents secured the damaged equipment. So what now? Collective's gone, Hex is busted. Back to normal. Ben looked at his hands. Faint traces of magenta energy still danced between his fingers. He closed his fist, feeling the power settle into a steady, controlled hum. Not normal, he said. Better. Chapter 3, Convergence, this is it. Ben stared at the holographic map hovering above the Plumber HQ conference table. Red warning indicators pulsed across all 7 continents. It's everywhere. 2 weeks had passed since they'd banished the Mana Collective to the Null Void. 2 weeks of relative peace. Then, yesterday, the Global Energy Monitoring Network lit up like a Christmas tree. Strange fluctuations in power grids worldwide. Communication systems dropping. Randomly. Weather patterns shifting without meteorological explanation. The collective had escaped. The Null Void isn't a permanent prison for energy beings, Grandpa Max explained, manipulating the display to zoom in on North America. It was designed for physical entities. The collective leaked through the dimensional barriers. Great, Kevin muttered from his position against the wall. So we just gave it a vacation and it came back stronger. Gwen enlarged a section of the map showing Bellwood. These patterns are different from before. More systematic. It's not just feeding anymore. She looked up, her expression grim. It's building something. A way to reach the Well of Stars, Ben said. He'd spent the past 2 weeks mastering his Anodite abilities with Gwen's guidance. His control had improved dramatically. Now, instead of wild bursts of energy, he could maintain steady mana constructs for hours. Hex might be locked up, but the collective still wants what he was after. Magister Patellidae, a fish-like plumber, flipped through data on a tablet. The Galvan archives have limited information on this Well of Stars, but what we do have indicates it's some kind of interdimensional nexus point where mana flows between realities. Like a cosmic geyser, Ben suggested. More like a source code, Gwen corrected. Grandma Verdona told me about it once. Anodites believe it's the origin point of all mana in our galactic sector. And if the collective reaches it? Kevin asked. Unlimited power, Max said grimly. Enough to reshape reality itself. The room fell silent as they absorbed the implications. Ben pushed away from the table, pacing. The Omnitrix was fully functional now, its green glow steady and strong. 2 weeks of practice had also taught him how to balance its power with his Anodite abilities, creating controlled hybrid forms rather than unstable explosions. So we stop it, Ben said simply. We did it before, we'll do it again. It's not that simple, Max cautioned. The entity is dispersed across the globe. We can't fight it everywhere at once. We don't need to, Ben stopped pacing, an idea forming. The collective is spread thin because it's searching. It doesn't know the exact location of the well. Gwen caught on immediately. But it needs a focal point to converge once it finds the coordinates. Exactly, Ben nodded. And we're better than here. Bellwood sits on a natural mana ley line, that's why there's so much weird stuff happening all the time. So instead of chasing it worldwide, Kevin pushed off the wall, understanding dawning, we set a trap here and let it come to us. Max studied the global map with renewed interest. The pattern of disturbances, they're radiating outward from a central point. He adjusted the display. From here. From Bellwood. It's already beginning, Gwen realized. The convergence has started. Ben activated the Omnitrix, scrolling through alien options before closing the display. Then we need to be ready when it finishes. The Plumber Armory looked like a cross between a military bunker and a sci-fi movie set. Weapons of various shapes and sizes lined the walls. Tech specialists moved between workstations, calibrating equipment. Kevin was in his element. He'd spent the past 3 days here, barely sleeping, working on specialized containment technology. His latest creation sat on the central workbench, a silver sphere about the size of a basketball, covered in intricate circuitry. This, Kevin said, holding up the device for Ben and Gwen, is what we're going to use to kick cosmic butt. Looks like a disco ball, Ben commented, peering at it. It's a multi-phase energy disruptor, Kevin said, slightly offended. It generates an inverted resonance field that destabilizes mana constructs. Basically, it makes energy not be energy anymore. That's actually brilliant, Gwen admitted, impressed. How did you develop this? Kevin grinned, setting the sphere down carefully. Took what we learned from Hex's designs, minus the evil, plus some Galvan tech. I borrowed. Borrowed? Gwen raised an eyebrow. Grandpa Max signed the requisition forms, Kevin assured her. Mostly. Ben picked up a smaller device from the workbench, a bracelet similar to the scanner Kevin had made for him, but more sophisticated. What's this one do? That, Kevin said, taking it and snapping it onto Ben's wrist, is a power regulator. It doesn't dampen your output like Hex's junk. Instead, it helps you control the flow. Like power steering for your mana. Ben flexed his hand, feeling the device calibrate to his energy signature. Nice. I made one for Gwen too, Kevin added, handing her an identical bracelet. And this, he tapped his chest, where a small metallic disc was attached to his shirt, is my personal shield generator. No more getting tossed around by energy tentacles. You've been busy, Gwen said softly. Kevin shrugged, but couldn't hide his pride. Someone's gotta keep you magic twins from blowing up the planet. Ben examined the larger containment device again. So what's the plan? We hit it with this when it shows up. Not exactly, Kevin activated a holographic display over the workbench. It showed a map of Bellwood with 5 blinking points forming a pentagon. We're setting up a perimeter. These disruptors create an energy containment field that will force the collective to stay in one place long enough for us to hit it with the big guns. Which are? Gwen asked. Kevin's grin widened. He pressed a button on the workbench. A section of the floor slid open, and a platform rose, carrying what looked like a massive cannon. I call it the Null Cannon. Combines null-void projection technology with targeted energy dispersal. One shot from this, and our smoky friend gets scattered across 1,000 different dimensions. Ben whistled, impressed. You built all this in 3 days. I've been designing it since our first run-in with the collective, Kevin admitted. Just needed the right parts and motivation. The tech is solid, Grandpa Max said, joining them. But we still need a way to counter the collective's adaptive abilities. No matter what we throw at it, it learns and evolves. That's where we come in, Ben said, gesturing between himself and Gwen. We hit it with energy signatures it can't predict or absorb. How? Kevin asked. It eats mana for breakfast. It eats regular mana, Gwen clarified. But Ben's hybrid forms create something different. The alien DNA alters the frequency. And with the stabilizers Kevin made, Ben added, tapping the bracelet, I can control the output instead of just exploding. Max nodded, studying the equipment. It's our best shot. But we need to be prepared for anything. The collective has surprised us every time we've faced it. When do we move? Ben asked. Max checked his tablet. Energy disturbances are intensifying. Convergence patterns suggest we have less than 24 hours before the collective fully materializes. Then let's get these toys in position, Kevin said, already loading the disruptors into carrying cases. And we should get some rest, Gwen added, glancing meaningfully at the dark circles under Kevin's eyes. We'll need to be at full strength. Ben looked at the Omnitrix, then at his hands where small wisps of magenta energy danced between his fingers. Tomorrow we end this. Once and for all. Dawn broke over Bellwood with an unnatural stillness. No bird sang. No breeze stirred the leaves. Even the early morning traffic seemed muted, as if the city was holding its breath. Ben stood on the roof of the tallest building downtown, watching the sunrise. The orange-pink light reflected off glass skyscrapers, but something was wrong with the light. It seemed to bend slightly around certain pockets of air, creating shimmer effects like heat mirages. The dimensional barriers are thinning, Gwen said, joining him at the edge. She wore her lucky outfit, a blue sweater over a white shirt, dark skirt, and leggings. I can feel it. Ben nodded. He'd sensed it too, a pressure behind his eyes, a vibration in his bones that had nothing to do with physical sound. Since awakening his Anodite powers, he'd become attuned to the energy flows around him. Right now, those flows were distorting, preparing for something big. Kevin in position? Ben asked, adjusting the power regulator on his wrist. Setting up the last disruptor now, Gwen confirmed. She touched her earpiece. Perimeter nearly complete. Southern node is active. Static crackled over the comm, then Kevin's voice, Eastern node online. This better work, because I'm not building another set of these things. Ben checked the Omnitrix one final time. He'd spent hours last night cycling through his aliens, testing which forms synergized best with his Anodite energy. Some combinations were more stable than others. Diamondhead, Chromastone, and Heat Blast worked well, their physical forms naturally conductive to energy manipulation. Others, like Wrath or Wild Mutt, rejected the mana completely. You nervous? Gwen asked, watching him fidget with the device. Nah, Ben lied, then shrugged. Maybe a little. This isn't like fighting Vilgax or the Forever Knights. This thing, it gets inside your head. I know, Gwen said quietly. I feel it too. The way it searches for weaknesses, adapts to whatever we throw at it. It's like fighting a mirror, Ben agreed. Their comms crackled again, this time with Grandpa Max's voice, all plumber units in position. Civilian evacuation of the target zone is complete. Energy readings are spiking across all sensors. Ben looked at the sky. The morning sunlight had taken on a strange, purple tint. The air felt heavier, charged with potential. It's starting, Gwen said, her eyes glowing pink as she sensed the energy fluctuations. The convergence is accelerating. Ben stepped back from the ledge. Time to light this candle. Kevin joined them on the rooftop, slightly out of breath from running up 20 flights of stairs. The elevators had stopped working 10 minutes earlier. Perimeter is set, he reported. Northern node had some interference, but it's online now. He was wearing a modified plumber armor vest over his usual clothes, with additional tech attachments on his arms and legs. Null cannon is in position at the central plaza. Remote triggered and ready to fire. Guess we're as ready as we'll ever be, Ben said. The comms suddenly erupted with urgent voices, energy spike in Sector 7. Dimensional fluctuations off the charts. All units, be advised, anomaly forming at coordinates, the cacophony was cut short by static. The entire comm network went dead. The ground beneath them shuddered. Not a normal earthquake, this felt like reality itself was vibrating. Glass cracked in nearby buildings. Car alarms wailed in the streets below. There. Gwen pointed to the center of the city. A swirling vortex had appeared above the central plaza, directly where they had positioned the null cannon. It wasn't smoke or cloud this time. It looked like a tear in space itself, edges rippling with dark energy. Through the rift, stars were visible, not normal stars, but strange, shifting points of purple-white light. The well, Ben realized. It found it. The vortex expanded rapidly, now nearly 100 feet in diameter. From its center, a shape began to emerge. Not the amorphous entity they had fought before, but something more defined, more purposeful. It resembled a massive humanoid figure, twice the height of the surrounding buildings. Its body was composed entirely of swirling dark energy, with stars visible through its semi-transparent form. Where a face should be, 3 points of intense white light formed a triangular pattern. "That's new," Kevin said, his usual sarcasm failing to mask his awe. The entity fully materialized, hovering above the city. It raised its arms, and tendrils of energy shot from its fingertips, connecting to power lines, cell towers, and other technology. Each connection pulsed with light as the collective drained energy from the city's infrastructure. Convergence complete. The voice boomed in their minds, not sound but pure thought, vibrating their skulls painfully. The well opens. The stars align. "Not if we have anything to say about it," Ben muttered. He activated his comm, switching to the backup frequency. "Grandpa, activate the perimeter." Static, then Max's voice broke through, activating containment field now. Across the city, the 5 disruptors simultaneously activated. Beams of blue-white energy shot skyward from each node, converging above the entity. They formed a dome of energy, enclosing the collective and the rift. The entity paused, sensing the field. It touched the energy barrier experimentally. Where its fingers made contact, the field sparked and crackled but held. Primitive. Expected. "It's contained," Kevin confirmed, checking his wrist device. Field integrity at 94% and holding. "Now for Phase 2, Ben said. He pressed a button on his wrist communicator. "Fire the null cannon." At the central plaza, the massive cannon powered up, its barrel glowing with increasing intensity. It aimed directly at the collective's chest. The entity looked down, noticing the weapon. It made no move to evade. Predictable. The cannon fired. A beam of concentrated null energy shot upward, striking the collective dead center. The entity's form rippled, destabilizing where the beam hit. For a moment, it seemed to be working, the collective's cohesion weakened, its edges blurring. Then it adapted. The entity's chest opened like a mouth, swallowing the null energy. Its form changed, incorporating the new energy type. It grew larger, more solid. Delicious. It absorbed the null energy. Kevin exclaimed, horrified. "That's not supposed to be possible." "Change of plans," Ben said grimly. He activated the Omnitrix. "I'm going in." "Ben, wait." Gwen grabbed his arm. "We need to coordinate." The entity made its move. It raised one massive hand toward their position. A beam of concentrated energy, a mixture of mana and null energy, shot from its palm. "Shield!" Gwen screamed, throwing up a mana barrier. The beam struck the shield with devastating force. The barrier shattered instantly. The rooftop exploded beneath their feet. Ben felt himself falling, surrounded by debris. He slammed down the Omnitrix core. Green light enveloped him as the transformation took hold. Big chill. His body turned ethereal, the moth-like alien's natural phasing abilities activating just in time. He passed harmlessly through the falling rubble. Looking up, he saw Gwen creating a mana platform to catch herself, while Kevin had absorbed the metal from a structural beam, forming a protective shell around his body. The trio landed on the street below, surrounded by dust and concrete. Chunks. People were screaming, running for cover as more energy beams struck buildings throughout the downtown area. Field integrity dropping to 82%, Kevin reported, checking his device. It's testing the barriers. Ben focused, drawing on his Anodite energy. The power flowed into his big chill form, changing it. His blue exoskeleton took on a purplish hue. The wings, normally moth-like and translucent, now glowed with magenta energy patterns. I'm going airborne, Ben's layered voice announced. Draw its attention. He launched upward, his energy-enhanced wings propelling him faster than Big Chill could normally fly. As he approached the containment field, he phased his body, passing through the energy barrier without disrupting it. Inside, the air felt wrong, thicker, charged with potential. The entity towered above, its attention still focused on the destruction below. Hey, ugly! Ben called. Remember me? The collective turned. Its three-point face focused on Ben. The catalyst. The bridge. Yeah, that's me, Ben confirmed, circling the entity. The guy who's going to shut you down. The entity reached for him with a massive hand. Ben phased, allowing it to pass through him. But unlike normal matter, the entity's energy form left a burning sensation where it touched, even in his intangible state. You cannot hide from us. Ben retaliated. He inhaled deeply, then exhaled a blast of his freezing breath, but not normal Big Chill ice. This was infused with Anodite energy, creating crystals that glowed with magenta light. The energy ice struck the entity's arm, spreading rapidly. Where it touched, the collective's form solidified, becoming temporarily fixed in place. Interesting. New. The ice continued to spread, encasing nearly half of the entity's massive body. For a moment, Ben thought it might work. The creature was immobilized, its energy structure disrupted by the hybrid attack. Then the collective flexed. The ice shattered, releasing a shockwave that sent Ben tumbling through the air. Adaptation complete. The entity's form shifted, incorporating aspects of Big Chill's physiology. Its body became slightly more insectoid, with wing-like appendages forming on its back. It phased partially, becoming semi-transparent. That's not good, Ben muttered. Below, Kevin and Gwen had regrouped. Kevin had assembled a makeshift energy cannon from his tech attachments, while Gwen maintained a protective shield around them both. Ben needs help, Gwen said, watching the aerial battle. That thing is adapting too quickly. We can't get through the containment field without shutting it down, Kevin replied, calibrating his weapon. And if we do that, the entity escapes and the city is toast, Gwen finished. I know. She focused, reaching out with her Anodite senses. The containment field was designed to keep energy in, not out. With precise control, she might be able to. I have an idea, she said. Cover me. Gwen closed her eyes, concentrating intensely. Her body lifted slightly off the ground, surrounded by a pink aura. She extended her hands toward the dome. Inside the field, Ben was in trouble. The entity had adapted to his phasing ability, able to make contact despite his intangibility. Each touch burned like acid, disrupting Big Chill's natural powers. Time to switch it up, Ben touched the Omnitrix symbol on his chest. In a flash of green, he transformed again, this time into a crystalline form. Diamond Head. The hybrid transformation was immediate. His crystal body glowed from within, magenta energy flowing through the translucent structures. He dropped through the air, generating crystal platforms to slow his descent. The entity pursued, its massive form moving with surprising speed. It fired beams of combined energy from its three-point face, each blast powerful enough to shatter Ben's crystal shields. Ben landed on a rooftop, generating a wave of crystal spikes that shot toward the entity. Each spike was charged with Anodite energy, designed to disrupt the collective's cohesion. The attack connected. Dozens of spikes embedded in the entity's form, each one pulsing with disruptive energy. The collective stumbled back, its form temporarily destabilizing. Pain. Interesting. Adaptation required. Ben. Gwen's voice echoed in his mind. Not through the comms, but through an Anodite connection. I'm creating a passage through the field. Kevin's coming in. Ben glanced down. Near the base of the energy dome, a small section wavered, then opened. Kevin dashed through the gap, the opening sealing instantly behind him. Heads up. Kevin called. He had absorbed the material of the disruptor nodes, his body now glowing with the same blue-white energy as the containment field. He tossed a smaller version of the disruptor sphere to Ben. Plant this in its core. Ben caught the device. What about you? I'll distract it, Kevin said. He slammed his energized fists together, creating a feedback pulse that made the air ripple. The collective noticed the new arrival. It turned its attention to Kevin, analyzing the unfamiliar energy signature. New variable. Processing. Kevin didn't wait. He charged, leaping from the street to a lower building, then springboarding off a ledge to launch himself directly at the entity's legs. His energized body created disruptions wherever he made contact, like static in a video feed. The distraction worked. The entity focused on Kevin, trying to adapt to this new threat. Ben took advantage, circling around to approach from behind. He launched crystal projectiles at strategic points, creating a diversion of his own. Outside the dome, Gwen maintained her connection to the containment field. Through her Anodite senses, she could feel the entity's movements, its adaptations, its growing frustration. But she also sensed something else, a secondary energy pattern, hidden beneath the chaotic surface. There's something inside it, she realized aloud. A core. Or, a pilot. Inside the dome, the battle intensified. Kevin was proving surprisingly effective, his tech-enhanced body disrupting the entity's energy matrix faster than it could adapt. He landed blow after blow, each one creating rippling distortions in the collective's form. Not so tough now, are you? Kevin taunted, dodging an energy blast. The entity had had enough. It changed tactics, its entire body pulsing with power. The air within the dome distorted, reality itself seeming to bend. Phase 2 initiated. The rift above the city widened. Through it, thousands of star-like lights became visible, the well of stars in all its glory. The entity reached upward, drawing power directly from the dimensional opening. Energy cascaded down, flowing into the collective's form. It grew larger, more defined. The three-point face expanded into a complete visage, eerily humanoid, but composed entirely of swirling energy patterns. Kevin, fall back. Ben shouted. It's powering up. Too late. The entity swung its arm in a wide arc. A wave of pure force struck Kevin, sending him flying through the air. He crashed through the wall of a building, disappearing inside. Kevin! Ben yelled. He leaped toward the impact site, but the entity intercepted him, moving with impossible speed. A massive hand closed around Ben's diamond-head form. The pressure was immense, even for his crystal body. Cracks began to form across his surface. The catalyst. The key. You will serve. I don't serve anyone, Ben grunted. He channeled Anodite energy through his crystal form, creating an explosive release. The burst forced the entity's hand open, allowing Ben to drop free. But instead of falling, he found himself suspended in midair. The entity had created some kind of energy field, holding him in place. You misunderstand your purpose. The voice was different now, more articulate, almost conversational. The entity's newly formed face regarded Ben with an expression that might have been curiosity. You are not my enemy. You are my vessel. The energy field around Ben intensified. He felt a presence pushing against his mind, seeking entrance. The pressure was incredible, like having his skull squeezed in a vice. Get out of my head! Ben roared. The Omnitrix symbol on his chest flashed, responding to his distress. Outside the dome, Gwen felt the shift. Ben's energy signature was changing, being overwritten by something else. The entity wasn't just attacking physically, it was attempting to possess him. No. Gwen's eyes blazed with pink fire. She pushed harder against the containment field, creating another opening. This time, she didn't wait for anyone else, she stepped through herself, sealing the gap behind her. Inside, the situation had deteriorated. Ben was suspended in the air, his crystal form flickering as he fought against the mental invasion. Kevin was nowhere to be seen, presumably still inside the damaged building. Gwen didn't hesitate. She gathered her power, forming it into a concentrated beam of pure Anodite energy. She fired directly at the connection between the entity and Ben. The beam struck true, severing the link. Ben fell, his transformation reverting to human form as he hit the ground. The entity recoiled, its face contorting in what might have been pain. The female. The pure one. Gwen stood her ground, hands glowing with power. Leave him alone. The entity regarded her with newfound interest. Its face shifted, becoming more feminine, mirroring Gwen's own features in a disturbing parody. Your energy is untainted. Perfect. Flattery will get you nowhere, Gwen replied. She created a series of mana constructs, shields, barriers, and weapons, arraying them around her in a defensive formation. The entity made no move to attack. Instead, it raised a hand toward the rift above. Energy poured down, not into the entity itself, but into the space around them. The air shimmered. Reality warped. Suddenly, Gwen wasn't standing in downtown Bellwood anymore. She was in a vast, white void, completely alone. Welcome to the space between. Gwen spun around, searching for the source of the voice. The entity was gone, replaced by a figure that made her breath catch. It was herself, or rather, a fully Anodite version of herself. Glowing purple skin, flowing energy hair, eyes like twin stars. This is your true form. Your destiny. You're not real, Gwen said firmly. This is an illusion. Is it? The false Anodite gestured, and the void around them transformed into a cosmic landscape, planets, stars, nebulae, all within reach. This could be your reality. All of space, all of energy, under your control. By giving you access to the well of stars, Gwen guessed. Not happening. Why fight what you are? The false Anodite floated closer. Your cousin embraced his heritage. You have always held back, afraid of your own potential. The accusation stung because it contained a grain of truth. Gwen had always been cautious with her powers, mindful of the warnings from her grandmother about losing her humanity. I'm not afraid, Gwen countered. I'm responsible. Responsibility is the excuse of the fearful. The false Anodite waved a hand, and the scene changed again. Now Gwen saw herself in battle after battle, always holding back, always calculating, always the voice of caution while Ben charged ahead. He surpasses you now. The student becomes the master. Unless. The illusion shifted to show Gwen in her full Anodite form, wielding power that dwarfed Ben's hybrid abilities. In this vision, she was the leader, the protector, the strongest of them all. Gwen felt the temptation like a physical pull. To be free of constraints, to unleash her full potential. No, she said, her voice growing stronger. This isn't about power or who's stronger. It never was. She closed her eyes, focusing on what was real, the connection to her physical body, the containment dome, the city below. She could feel Ben's energy signature, weakened but recovering. She sensed Kevin, his unique technological aura moving through the damaged building. My team needs me, Gwen said. Not some cosmic energy being. Me. Gwen Tennyson. With all my human limitations and strengths. The false Anodite's face twisted in frustration. You reject perfection. I reject your definition of it, Gwen replied. She gathered her power, focusing it inward rather than outward. Now get out of my head. The illusion shattered. Gwen found herself back in Bellwood, standing exactly where she had been. The entity loomed above her, its face no longer mirroring hers but contorted in what might have been anger. Disappointing. Elsewhere in the containment dome, Ben was experiencing his own vision. He found himself in a featureless white room, facing himself. But not the Ben Tennyson he knew. This version was older, more confident, wearing a modified Omnitrix that seemed fused to his arm. You have questions, the other Ben said, his voice echoing strangely. I have answers. Who are you supposed to be? Ben demanded. Evil future me. Been there, done that. Not evil. Evolved. The figure gestured, and the room transformed into a high-tech laboratory. This is where it began. Where the collective first made contact with human science. Images flashed around them, Professor Hex working with strange equipment, experiments on energy samples, failed prototypes. Hex sought power. We sought understanding. A fair exchange. So you used him, Ben realized. You led him to the well of stars. He led himself. We merely pointed the way. The scene shifted again, showing the well of stars in its full glory, a swirling nexus of energy connecting multiple dimensions. But he was insufficient. Weak. Human. The false Ben smiled. Unlike you. What do you want from me? Ben asked, though he was beginning to suspect the answer. A vessel. A bridge. Your unique biology, human, Anodite, and the Omnitrix, creates a perfect conduit. The implication was clear. The collective didn't just want to reach the well of stars. It wanted to use Ben to channel its power. Hard pass, Ben said flatly. Find another puppet. You misunderstand. The false Ben's expression turned sympathetic. We offer partnership. Imagine what you could become. The illusion changed once more. Ben saw himself transforming, not just into aliens, but into something beyond, a being of pure energy and infinite potential. In this vision, he was no longer limited by the Omnitrix, by his human form, or even by the constraints of physical reality. All worlds. All powers. All possibilities. The temptation was powerful. Ben had always sought the next transformation, the next power-up. This was the ultimate upgrade. But at what cost? And what happens to Earth? To everyone else? Ben asked. The false Ben waved dismissively. Irrelevant. They would exist in whatever form you desire. That's the problem, Ben said. They wouldn't be real anymore. Just projections of what I want. Is that not preferable? A world without conflict, without pain. Ben thought about his friends, his family. About Kevin's sarcasm and Gwen's stubbornness. About Grandpa Max's wisdom and all the bizarre, chaotic, wonderful experiences that made life worth living. A world without choice isn't a world worth saving, Ben said. I don't want to control reality. I just want to protect it. The false Ben's face hardened. Then you are as disappointing as the female. The illusion began to crack around the edges. Ben focused on his true self, on the Omnitrix, on the energy flowing through his veins. He wasn't just human, wasn't just Anodite, wasn't just a wielder of the Omnitrix. He was all of these things and more, he was Ben Tennyson. I'll take disappointing over whatever you're selling, Ben said. He raised his hand, activating the Omnitrix. Now, let's get back to reality. The illusion shattered completely. Ben found himself on his knees in the middle of the street, the entity hovering above. Across the battlefield, he saw Gwen, also recovering from what must have been a similar experience. The entity's face was no longer mimicking human features. It had reverted to the three-point pattern, but now those points glowed with intense fury. Rejection. Failure. Adaptation required. Kevin burst from the damaged building, his body still coated in the energy-disrupting material. He looked battered but determined. "Did I miss something?" he asked, joining Ben and Gwen in the center of the street. "Just a little mind games," Ben replied, standing up. "The collective tried to recruit us. Let me guess, unlimited cosmic power, tingling sensation of godhood, blah blah blah." Kevin smirked. "Something like that," Gwen said. She looked up at the entity, which was drawing more energy from the rift above. "It's getting stronger. The containment field won't hold much longer." Ben checked the disruptor sphere Kevin had given him earlier. It was still intact. "We need to get this into its core." "It has a core?" Kevin asked. "Some kind of central consciousness," Gwen explained. "I sensed it during the illusion. It's not just energy, there's something directing it, a singular mind." Kevin studied the entity's massive form. "So we need a delivery system. Something that can penetrate all that energy without getting fried." Ben looked at the Omnitrix. "I have an idea. But it's risky." "When isn't it?" Gwen asked, a small smile playing on her lips despite the situation. "Fair point," Ben grinned. He activated the Omnitrix, scrolling through his aliens. "Cover me. I need to get airborne." Kevin smashed his energized fists into the ground, creating a shockwave that rippled outward. "Go. We'll distract big, dark, and ugly." Ben slammed down the Omnitrix core. Green light enveloped him. Jetray. The transformation completed, but immediately began to change as Ben channeled his Anodite energy. Jetray's red skin took on a purplish hue, and magenta energy crackled along the neural shock whips on his tail and the beams from his eyes. Ben shot into the air, moving faster than Jetray's already impressive speed. The Anodite energy enhanced every aspect of the alien: velocity, maneuverability, and offensive capability. Below, Kevin and Gwen launched a coordinated assault. Kevin hurled pieces of energy-charged debris, while Gwen fired precisely aimed mana bolts. Each attack was designed not to damage the entity, but to distract it from Ben's approach. The entity responded with a barrage of energy tentacles, whipping down from its massive form to strike at the ground. Gwen erected shields, blocking most of the attacks, while Kevin dodged and weaved through the ones that got through. High above, Ben circled the entity's head, analyzing its structure. The 3 points of light seemed to be the focal point of its consciousness, but the real core would be deeper, protected. "Time for a closer look," Ben muttered. He tucked the disruptor sphere against his body and dove. He corkscrewed through the air, avoiding energy blasts from the entity. As he neared its head, he fired his own neuroshock beams, enhanced by Anodite energy. The beams struck the 3 points of light, temporarily disrupting them. The entity recoiled, its head tilting back. Ben saw his opportunity. He dove straight down into the entity's form, phasing into the energy field. Inside was chaos. Swirling patterns of energy, star-like points of light, and a constant, overwhelming pressure. Ben struggled to maintain his form, the hybrid Jetray body fighting against the entity's attempts to absorb it. He pushed deeper, following his instincts. At the center of the maelstrom, he sensed something solid, a physical core within the energy matrix. There. A sphere of condensed energy, about the size of a basketball, pulsing with a rhythm that reminded Ben of a heartbeat. This was the central consciousness, the true form of the collective. Ben reached for it, the disruptor sphere in his grasp. The pressure increased tenfold. The entity had realized his intent and was fighting back with everything it had. "No. You will not." The voice wasn't just in Ben's head now, it was all around him, part of the energy field itself. "We offered partnership. Now you will know consumption." The energy closed in, attempting to strip away Ben's transformed body and reach the human underneath. Ben felt his hybrid form beginning to fail, the Jetray aspects being drained away first. In a desperate move, he hurled the disruptor sphere at the core. It struck true, latching onto the pulsing sphere. But it didn't activate. No. Ben realized the problem immediately. The disruptor needed an energy signature to trigger it, that's why Kevin had said to plant it, not just throw it. Ben fought against the crushing pressure, reaching for the core again. His jet ray form was almost gone now, leaving only his human body enhanced by Anodite energy. Come on. Ben strained, his fingers brushing the surface of the disruptor. He needed to channel just a bit of energy into it, just enough to trigger the sequence. Outside the entity, Gwen sensed Ben's struggle. His energy signature was flickering, being overwhelmed by the collective's vastly superior force. He's in trouble, she told Kevin. The disruptor isn't activating. Kevin looked up at the massive energy being, frustration evident on his face. We can't reach him in there. Gwen closed her eyes, focusing on her connection to Ben. As cousins, as Anodites, they shared a link that transcended physical distance. She had never tried to utilize it so directly before, but now there was no choice. I can reach him, she said. But I need an anchor. Kevin understood immediately. He placed his hands on Gwen's shoulders. I've got you. Do what you need to do. Gwen's body began to glow with pink energy. Her consciousness extended outward, following the thread of connection to Ben. She pushed through the entity's outer defenses, through the maelstrom of energy, to where Ben was fighting a losing battle. Ben. Her mental voice reached him. I'm here. Ben felt the connection like a lifeline. Gwen. The disruptor, I can't activate it. We do it together, Gwen replied. She channeled her energy through their connection, into Ben, strengthening him. Ben felt the renewed power flowing through him. The Anodite energy responded, flowing more freely, pushing back against the entity's crushing force. One more push, Ben thought. He reached for the disruptor again, his hand glowing with combined energy, his own and Gwen's. This time, when he touched it, the disruptor responded. Lights flashed across its surface as the activation sequence began. Now, Ben. Get out. Ben didn't need to be told twice. He used the last of his strength to push away from the core, fighting against the currents of energy trying to hold him. Outside, Kevin felt Gwen's body grow hot, almost too hot to touch. But he held on, grounding her as she maintained the connection to Ben. Come on, Tennyson, Kevin muttered. Don't make me come in there after you. The entity seemed to sense what was happening. Its entire form convulsed, the energy patterns becoming erratic. It reached upward toward the rift, drawing more power in a desperate attempt to counter the threat. Deep within the entity, the disruptor reached full activation. A pulse of counter-frequency energy exploded outward from the core. The effect was instantaneous. The entity's energy matrix began to destabilize, breaking apart from the inside out. Ben was caught in the shockwave, tumbling through dissolving energy fields. He couldn't tell which way was out, couldn't find a path through the chaos. Then he felt a pull, not the entity trying to trap him, but Gwen's energy creating a path. He followed it, pushing with everything he had left. Outside, the entity's massive form was coming apart. Waves of energy rolled off it, dissipating into the air. The rift above began to contract, the connection to the well of stars weakening. There. Kevin pointed. A figure shot out from the entity's disintegrating chest, Ben, his body still glowing with the last remnants of Anodite energy. He fell through the air, unconscious. Gwen's eyes snapped open. Catch him. Kevin sprinted forward, calculating the trajectory. He leaped onto a parked car, then launched himself upward, arms outstretched. He caught Ben in midair, the impact sending them both crashing onto a nearby awning, which collapsed under their weight. They tumbled to the ground in a heap of limbs and torn fabric. Ow, Kevin groaned. Why are you heavier than you look? Ben didn't respond. He was out cold, his body limp and pale. The Omnitrix was in recharge mode, its faceplate a dull red. Gwen ran to them, kneeling beside Ben. She placed a hand on his chest, sensing his energy levels. He's completely drained. But he's alive. Above them, the entity was in its death throes. The massive form had collapsed into a swirling vortex of chaotic energy, centered around the now visible core. The disruptor sphere continued its work, breaking down the connections that held the collective together. The rift to the well of stars contracted further, now just a small tear in the sky. Energy poured out of the entity rather than in, returning to the dimensional nexus. It's working, Kevin said, sitting up with a wince. The collective is falling apart. The entity made one final, desperate attempt to stabilize. The core pulsed brightly, drawing in the scattered energy. For a moment, it seemed to be reforming. Then, with a sound like thunder, the disruptor reached critical mass. The core shattered, releasing a shockwave that rippled outward. The remaining energy dispersed in all directions, harmless without the guiding consciousness. The rift sealed completely, leaving only blue sky above. Silence fell over downtown Bellwood. The containment field flickered, then shut down as the disruptors detected no further energy signatures to contain. Gwen let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. It's over. Kevin nodded, looking at the unconscious Ben. Did he just save the universe again? Because I'm not giving him credit if he's not awake to be annoying about it. A small smile tugged at Gwen's lips. I think we all did. In the distance, plumber vehicles approached, Grandpa Max leading the convoy. Emergency services followed, ready to assess the damage and assist civilians. Come on, Kevin said, gently lifting Ben. Let's get him home. 3 days later, Ben sat on the hood of Kevin's car, watching the sunset from the overlook above Bellwood. His body had recovered, though he still felt the occasional twinge when using his Anodite abilities. The Omnitrix was fully functional again, the green glow steady and reassuring. Still can't believe you broke my disruptor, Kevin grumbled, leaning against the driver's side door. Do you know how long it took to build that thing? 3 days, Ben replied with a grin. And you've already started on the next version. Version 2.0, Kevin confirmed. Twice the disruption, half the boom. Gwen joined them, carrying 3 smoothies from Mr. Smoothie. She handed them out before sitting beside Ben on the hood. So, she said after a moment, no more voice in your head. No more cosmic temptation. Ben took a sip of his smoothie. Nope. Just the usual Tennyson charm and wit. So, nothing, then, Kevin quipped. Ben flicked a small pulse of magenta energy at Kevin's smoothie, making it bubble over onto his shirt. Hey! Kevin jumped back, wiping at the stain. These tricks are getting old fast, Tennyson. Ben laughed. Never gets old from where I'm sitting. Gwen shook her head, but she was smiling too. Your control is getting better. No more random explosions. I had a good teacher, Ben said sincerely. Still do. The compliment caught Gwen off guard. She looked away, but not before Ben caught the pleased expression on her face. So what now? Kevin asked, giving up on the stain and rejoining them. Back to normal hero stuff. Bank robbers and alien invasions. For now, Ben said, looking at the Omnitrix. But Hex was right about one thing, the well of stars is still out there. And if the collective found it once, something else might find it again, Gwen finished. Kevin sighed dramatically. Great. Another cosmic crisis waiting to happen. But we'll be ready, Ben said confidently. All of us. He held out his fist. After a moment, Gwen bumped it with her own. Kevin rolled his eyes but joined in, completing the circle. As their fists connected, a small spark of energy passed between them, magenta from Ben to Gwen, and a curious blue-white glow from Kevin to both of them. They pulled back, startled. What was that? Kevin asked, examining his hand. I don't know, Gwen said, equally surprised. She looked at Ben. Did you do that? Ben shook his head. Not on purpose. They looked at each other, a mixture of concern and curiosity on their faces. Then Kevin shrugged. Probably just static, he said, though he didn't sound entirely convinced. Too much energy weirdness lately. Probably, Ben agreed, choosing not to mention the brief but distinct flow of power he'd felt, not just his Anodite energy transferring to Gwen, but something from Kevin flowing into both of them. Something technological yet organic, familiar yet alien. That was a mystery for another day. For now, they had earned their peace. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting the city in golden light. From this distance, you couldn't see the damage from the battle, just the sprawling community they had fought to protect. You know what? Ben said, raising his smoothie. I think we make a pretty good team. Don't get sappy on us, Tennyson, Kevin warned, but he raised his cup as well. The best, Gwen agreed, completing the toast. Their cups touched as the last rays of sunlight faded, leaving them in comfortable silence under the emerging stars, normal stars, safely distant and exactly where they belonged. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.